Father Tree Descartes raised his face and looked at Robin seriously. What we found that day was the secret of eternal life. Secret of what? Robin and Billy both stammered in stupefaction. They were both extremely dumbfounded. Theoretically, someone at the top of the sage realm could live for more than 4,000 years, but in the entire history of Jura, no one was known to have reached this age. Even Old Gu, who is considered one of the oldest pillars in the true beginning army, is an expert at the top of the sage realm and is almost places a foot in the emperor realm, is barely over 2,000 years old. For 1,000 years. This period of time is equivalent to 40-50 generations of any mortal family, equivalent to the rise and fall of kingdoms, the emergence and disappearance of races. At some point, most of the sages started falling apart and hating everything. Some of them started drinking alcohol and not taking care of their bodies until they died of diseases, and some of them went crazy and started creating wars and horrors until they were put to death. Some of them went hunting the ancient beasts, hidden deep in the mountains for the thrill, and all of them were eaten. And some of them decided to retire from life, like Old Gu, who gave his throne to his son and contented himself with advice from the side. Some of them even took a shortcut and committed suicide directly. Of course, there are certainly many sages who died of old age somewhere trying to reach a secret that would prolong their lives a little more. But even these people no one heard anything about, as if they had had enough. It's not like they don't like life, it's because standing on top for a long time is really boring. Maybe living for such long periods is okay for the Traiants. After all, they still have their nature as plants. They can sleep for a few thousand years at a time without problems. But what would a human do with power and authority without an explicit purpose? Bed more girls? Go to auctions and spend your money on good wines and some ancient beast hide? Worldly pleasures always have limits, and humans by nature hate repetition. If those sages were told that if they cling to life, someone named Robin would come and take them to conquer other worlds, they would cling to life with their hands and teeth, as Old Gu is doing now. But without a goal, what is the point of life? Therefore, thinking about the subject of eternal life never occurred to the inhabitants of the planet Jura. An interesting topic to waste time on, yes, but it was never their ultimate goal. Well, that's until Robin appeared and started the planetary wars, at least. And then Billy continued, "Did you just say eternal life? Life and eternity in the same sentence? Is that what you said?" The Tree Father shook his head when he saw that reaction. But he did not look a little disappointed, as if he had expected it. But he continued anyway with a long sigh and a voice full of regret. Sigh before the era of energy cultivation began, we ancient Traiants knew about the existence of the world, the planet spirit. We could all feel it in the interior of the planet after completing the process of returning to Earth. After humans discovered energy cultivation and the number of human and Traiant cultivators began to increase, changes began to occur around us, as we felt that the energy levels in the atmosphere were rising and the laws became clearer to anyone who wanted to discover it. Things like that. Robin nodded continuously. This kind of information about the beginning of the cultivation era had always been absent from him. As for the Tree Father's condition, he did not pay attention to it. It was clear that he did not want to reveal the secret that he had fought for all his life. But who cares about his feelings? Then the avatar of the Tree Father continued speaking while he was in the same state. But one day, precisely on the day that the first human being broke through and was able to use the second stage of one of the laws, becoming what you call a saint, we felt the spirit of the planet itself change radically. At the same moment, all of the ancient Traiant tried to sense it, as we always did, to find out what was happening to it, but this time we found ourselves in a different domain, and we saw for the first time the spirit of the planet. At that moment, it was undergoing an evolution of sorts. It was in the process of acquiring a spirit form and consciousness. We did not have any enmity with the planet spirit at that time. On the contrary, we felt that we belonged to it, so no one tried to harm it during its development. Rather, we all found this to be an opportunity to understand more about our world. So we stayed to watch what was happening. And during the formation of the spiritual form of the planet spirit, we all noticed at the same time that the planet spirit was not complete. When the planet spirit had finally finished gaining form and consciousness, we felt its immense power more clearly. Even if there was someone among us with twisted thoughts, he had to shelve it and stay silent. Then we all came forward to congratulate the planet spirit and ask it if it had any advice or instructions. Of course, we had no hope of it saying anything important. If it possessed the memories of the planet from the beginning of creation, then to it we are children who are not worthy of its time. And if it is still just a nascent spirit, then it has nothing to tell us. But we were surprised like we were hit by thunder when we heard these words. The planet spirit, after it took form, literally said, "I don't feel well? Who among you wants to be my owner?" An owner? Did I hear correctly? Robin furrowed his eyebrows upon hearing that word. The planet spirit was asking to be owned by someone. Tree Father Descartes Avatar nodded. One of the ancient Trey ants didn't even give us a chance to be surprised and quickly asked, "What would I gain if I became your owner?" The planet spirit then seemed to be thinking of an appropriate response, and then it spoke. "I don't know if that's good to you, but my owner will remain alive as long as I am still alive. Alive as long as I am still alive. Alive as long as I am still alive." Robin was unable to contain himself, so he stood up and began to walk back and forth with his hands behind his back, muttering these words, "This I am returning to the consciousness of the world spirit, or on the planet itself. Does it matter? No one can destroy the vast world, and no one can kill the all-powerful planet spirit. If this is not eternal life, then what is?" Tree Father Descartes showed a meaningful smile. "In any case, we all asked to know the way to possess the planet spirit, and it gave the method to all of us, a way to refine the incomplete planet spirit using our primal souls to make it complete. This will make the world spirit dependent on you all the time, but wouldn't that be even better?" We all began the refinement process at the same time. Then he added after the smile disappeared from his face. At first it was just a simple race to try the method and see who could refine the planet's soul the fastest and use it for himself. We soon learned that the refinement process could be done by many people at the same time and that it would take a very long time, but this did not weaken anyone's resolve. The moment we began the refinement process, we also began to feel our familiarity with the laws increasing, and most importantly, we felt our lives actually lengthening. Here Robin stopped walking back and forth and looked at the Tree Father. "So that's how it is. You ancient Trey ants all sacrificed movement, communication, family, and everything in order to prolong their lives. If all those monsters clinging to life found a plaything that could grant eternal life, then..." Here the Tree Father interrupted Robin. "A war like no other will begin." That's right. When we knew the benefits and knew that the refinement process would take a very long time, perhaps tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years, a few ancient Trey ants withdrew their souls from the planet's spirit immediately and thought of the obvious thing. It is to reduce the number of competitors. What is the benefit if we spend refining the soul of the planet for 10,000 years only to find in the end that each one of us obtained a level of refinement of 2%? Will we in the end politely ask others to back off and they will agree? Everyone knew that the war was inevitable. It was only a question of when, where, and how. Robin raised his eyebrows slightly. "Let me guess. You also decided to exterminate the rest of the Trey ant race, so that the secret of eternal life would not be revealed and more rivals would emerge. But why humans, other intelligent creatures, and even beasts were subjected to your extermination war as well?" Robin raised his eyebrows slightly. "I understand that ruthless old things like yourselves would want to exterminate the Trey ant race to lessen the competition for eternal life, as you didn't want any more of them returning to Earth and finding the spirit of the planet. But why would you want to exterminate humans, other intelligent creatures, and even the beasts? Don't give me that look. We didn't agree on anything at the time. Rather, every ancient Trey ant did what he thought was good for him. Some of them were afraid of the idea that humans and other intelligent beings would find a way to communicate with the spirit of the world as well. And you know how the humans behave when they find something like that. The way of reaching the spirit of the planet would soon spread, and instead of having 50 competitors in refinement, then the number would be in the thousands. Those ancient Trey ants who thought this way began to kill everything they could see in order to prevent any future competition. This does not mean that we all thought the same way." Robin shrugged his shoulders. But all of you are thinking that way now. There is not a single ancient Treant currently whose hands have not been soaked in the blood of billions of living beings, including you. Not entirely true. I mean, we do try to kill everything we can reach, but not for the same reason as back then. Currently, the war on the planet's creatures for us is not due to fear of the emergence of a new competition. If humans could access the spirit of the planet, they would have done so by now. Our war on them now is simply happening because of the war is between the 7 of us. You are killing them because of the war that is happening between the 7 of you? Didn't you make a pact to stop your war until you kill all the humans and beasts first? Please elaborate. It's actually very easy to explain. We require an enormous amount of energy to enlarge and move our armies. And when a few members of the ancient Treants began killing large numbers of human energy cultivators and strong beasts back then, we found that the energy in the atmosphere had become more abundant, and that was especially true around the Tree Fathers who started those massacres. So the rest of us decided to follow the same approach and create a circle around our bodies now known as the domination circle, where all the energy within that circle belongs to us only. And that is why we had to kill any creature that drains energy for itself or has the potential to do so in the future. That's all. The Tree Father Avatar spoke emotionlessly. After hundreds of thousands of years of killing and billions of deaths, he no longer had any kind of compassion for life. He seemed like a farmer talking about harvesting fruits or how he had exterminated harmful insects in his field. Oh, you said earlier that the amount of energy in the atmosphere increased whenever humans began to break through the higher levels. Does this mean that the energy level in the atmosphere increases with the increase in available cultivation levels, but decreases with the increase in the number of cultivators? Interesting. But is this sufficient reason to commit these massacres against people who have nothing to do with your war? Did you go crazy after you heard the term eternal life? You really are. Robin almost hurled insults at Tree Father Descartes about them being heartless and things like that about killing, but he remembered that he was no better off than them and closed his mouth. What happened then? The spirit of the planet was very angry at our actions. The spirit cried and said that it wanted a companion who would help it develop further, not a group of criminals who would throw the planet back hundreds of thousands of years. It immediately halved our lifespans as punishment, and it also sent many disasters upon our real bodies, such as the thundercloud that has been striking Hoffenheim for 200,000 years to prevent him from growing any larger. Perhaps you have seen it? Tree Father Descartes looked down. The pleas and attacks of the planet spirit were enough to stop some of them, but others did not see that the punishments had any weight when compared to eternal life, so they continued the war anyway. And since some of us resumed the war, it was natural for the rest to return to the fight as well, of course. We will not stay still and wait to be killed. It was clear that the planet spirit was very angry. It kept having our lifespans, but our continuous refinement of the planet spirit made up for what we lost and some more. The planet spirit also kept sending us natural disasters, but because of the process of refinement, our understanding of the heavenly laws increased tremendously, and those disasters became a source of great inspiration for us. Then the Tree Father added seriously, if we continued with the previous example, the thunder cloud that kept striking Hoffenheim when he was still alive also taught Hoffenheim the major heavenly law of lightning, and the refinement of the spirit of the planet made him more integrated with the major heavenly law of lightning to the point that he modified the law and put in it a feature that lightning strikes every flying thing within his domination circle when he activates the feature. The lightning attack that took down most of your men the day you arrived in our world was an attack from the major heavenly law of lightning itself, fueled by the energy of the planet. The rest of the ancient Treant also gained similar abilities to the disasters that were striking them, one of them modifying the major heavenly law of wind, another on the major heavenly law of earth, and so on. And at some point we were able to agree to amend the heavenly laws in order to prevent any more plants from becoming Treant creatures. Altering the heavenly laws within the planet? Something like this is possible? For the second time, Robin's features turned surprised and he took 2 steps toward Descartes. Have you not experienced this yourself? The lightning bolts that descended on your followers ignored all defenses and directly hit them because they are devoid of techniques, refined energy. etc. Rather, they are pure heavenly law supported by pure natural energy. There is no defense against this. Descartes' avatar shook his head slightly. Any modification made to the laws greatly consumes our refinement of the planet's soul. So the modification is often so simple that it is not mentioned. Also, every time the property implanted in the laws is activated, we consume the planet's refinement percentage as well. But it is still a deterrent weapon with which we can protect our own domination circles from external armies. All we have to do is to find a way to keep expanding it. Of course, over the years we have gained more capabilities by delving deeper into refining the spirit of the planet and discovering things such as the creation of warlords and many other secrets, as if we have become able to monitor everything that happens inside our domination circle all the time, or ways to strengthen our souls, etc. The planet's spirit simply replied eternal life to the question at that time because it simply could not count the benefits it would give to its owner, so it said the first thing that came to its mind. After those words, Descartes' embodiment fell silent again to give Robin a chance to digest the information. Robin himself remained with his eyebrows furrowed for a few minutes before he returned to sitting quietly. No wonder you didn't want to speak. The secrets of the war that lasted 200,000 years have all been revealed once you opened your mouth. Eternal life. Eternal life. The Tree Father Avatar sighed and shook his head. It was enough for him to compete with the 6 Tree Fathers and the human tribes that refused to die, but now that the Invader Emperor knew the secret, his chance of controlling the spirit of the planet became officially zero. He could console himself that he was now on the winning side and that at least he would be able to move, but this was still a fish-in-water promise. As for the spirit of the planet, it was something tangible and real he had experienced himself. Abandoning it like this for him is really. The Tree Father Avatar raised his head slightly and looked at Robin with a complicated look as he thought. Let's hope your Real army is bigger than the one you've shown so far. Otherwise, we'll both be doomed. The spirit of the planet. The spirit of the planet. Robin sat down again and continued to tap his knees slowly and began to mutter in a low voice. Greenland is not a special planet to have a spirit of its own, and the rest of the planets do not. It's not the biggest nor the oldest and definitely not the richest with natural energy. So it is safe to say that the rest of the planets also have a spirit of their own too. You said the planet's spirit was born defective and needed someone to refine it. So it now becomes logical that the planet's spirit tries to strengthen its potential owners and gives special abilities to babies in their mothers' wombs until it finds a good candidate to refine it. But isn't it also natural for the planet's spirit to try to communicate with people until it finds good candidates? Robin then shook his head. But this is definitely not the case. It simply does not happen. I can say categorically that even the emperors of Nahari do not know anything about the planet's spirit and eternal life yet. Otherwise, everything in planet Nahari would have completely changed, and that mild peace the giants have now would have collapsed long ago. Of course, the same applies to planet Jura and the farm planet. The residents of both planets have no knowledge of this matter. And I'm certain the top icons don't know either, or signs would have shown. There is something missing. Why don't the plant spirits elsewhere try to communicate with their residents as well? Planet Nahari even has martial emperors there. Does this mean that in order to sense the planet's spirit and begin the refinement process, normally one must be at the realm above the emperor realm? At the very least. Robin continued to tap his knee. This makes sense since it took you more than 200,000 years, and you still have not been able to refine the spirit of the planet. How could another living being survive all that long? If this had always been the case, it would have been an impossible task for any species other than the Treants, and the ancient ones at that. There are definitely conditions to refine the planet's spirit, and they should have something to do with the maturity of the spirit itself or the level of power of its refiner. This is the best explanation I can come up with. It is that you ancient Treants reached the planet's spirit by accident because of your special nature, and you started the refinement process way too early. This should not have happened, and it probably won't happen anywhere else, because the presence of Treant creatures and the effects of returning to Earth on this planet is a special case that will not be repeated. The Tree Father remained silent and attentive as he heard these conclusions. These were things he had thought about countless times before, but he had no information from other planets that he could measure against. So Robin's words now were important to him and could even be described as eye-opening. Was the task of refinement and eternal life really impossible for them from the beginning? Why didn't the planet Spirit say anything all that time? As for Billy, his thoughts were focused on something else, the farm planet. What do you mean by farm planet? Then he gasped, "Damn, is it what I think it is?" Billy's shouting brought Robin out of his state, and he looked at Billy in stupefaction. But he was too busy to give an answer, so he quickly ignored him and went back to looking at Father Tree. What are the other Tree Fathers planning now? The souls of the 6 of us have been gathering constantly within the planet's spirit domain since the day you fought against the warlords. Everyone recognizes the capabilities of your empire now, but no one is willing to give up on anything. Although no one trusts anyone until this moment and we do not go into many details during the meetings, there is something unanimously agreed upon. Your war from now on will not be against one Tree Father. If you stay put, they will ignore you for now, but once you decide to advance further, you will be facing all of us, I mean all of them. Tree Father Descartes replied with fluctuating emotions. Robin nodded a few times. It's nothing unexpected, and what about the rest of the local human tribes? Even if you don't have authority over their lands, I'm sure you have a way to spy on them, right? Their position has not changed much. They view you as intruders who want to take what is theirs. In this regard, you are not much different from us, the Tree Fathers. And I see that you will personally support these ideas very soon. I do not think that you intend to hand over the lands of Hoffenheim to those 3 tribes and return your army from where you came from, right? Robin waved. I will give them what they deserve according to their contributions, but hand over everything? Of course, it is impossible. We are here to stay, not to do charity work. The avatar of the Tree Father raised his shoulders slightly. Then keep in mind that you will not fight the 5 Tree Fathers alone. And do not underestimate the human alliance either. If they were easy to deal with, they would not have been able to trouble us until today. Oh, beware of the Northern Fury tribe as well, as they have been in constant contact with the human alliance lately. Billy took a step forward and shouted, annoyed. It is impossible for the local humans to fight us. Our presence will give them a better life and save them from living on the brink of death daily. With what reason would they choose to antagonize us? He had dealt with the citizens of the Northern Fury tribe and the Grazing Rat tribe for 6 years. Even if it was light dealings, he rejected the idea that they would become enemies. A devil you know is better than an angel you do not know. This is a simple logic that humans have used everywhere since the beginning of creation. Sometimes some people choose to side with the tyrant they know rather than hand over the reins to a stranger. Isn't this ironic? But Robin was noticeably calmer. That's because they don't just know us. When they see our treatment of the 3 tribes who participated in the Tree Father Hoffenheim War and we convince them that we will give them a better life and teach them better techniques, they will definitely feel comfortable with us. Billy quickly intervened. If you intend to court them and persuade them to be reasonable, then do whatever you want in your free time and in a way that does not harm the prestige of the Empire. As for me, I do not plan to sit and persuade anyone. They are not children and they must bear the consequences of their actions. The invasion plan will go as it is. At the very worst, we will just make a few more enemies. Robin waved indifferently when comparing those human tribes to battling against the armies of 5 Tree Fathers at the same time. He simply didn't have time to care for them. Then he continued as he looked towards Descartes' avatar. I want you to announce that you have joined the true beginning empire, and you will allow the 5th Legion and the Grazing Rats army to move freely in your lands as confirmation of your announcement. Wouldn't it be better if I concealed my joining you and remained among them? The avatar furrowed his brows. The thought of opening his lands to humans still gave him shivers. And do what exactly? Robin smiled and shook his head. You said yourself that they don't trust anyone. If one of the Tree Fathers has a secret weapon or something like that, he won't tell you before using it. What's the point of pretending that you're still on their side then? And when I start the invasion again, you'll announce you're joining me? Or will you fight against me? Or perhaps you will choose neutrality? TSK, these are all options that are not in our favor. It is better for you to announce you're joining me and damage their morale even more. The news of Hoffenheim's death and your declaration of loyalty to the Empire will restrain them for a while, and perhaps some of them will reconsider which side they are on as well. Alright then, what else? The Avatar sighed and surrendered. Your joining me means that now the lands of the Empire extend from the lands of Hoffenheim and your lands, and the 4 human tribes are attached to them. This is a piece of land that represents more than a quarter of the planet, a one piece of beauty with no gaps in between, and it can be declared a kingdom. When Robin thought about this, he naturally smiled. No one can say that he is better than a tree father when it comes to defending and expanding borders. So I want you to cooperate with my army generals to make decent defenses around our borders and prepare for any external attack. I also want you to attend the meeting that will happen in a few days at the headquarters to see what the 4 tribes intend to do, and then we will act. Accordingly, it will also be a good opportunity to get to know the rest of the generals in the Empire. They will be your companions from today on. I'll be there. What else? The Avatar nodded. You will act accordingly with the 4 tribes? What do you mean? Billy furrowed his eyebrows. You'll know then. Robin motioned for Billy to be silent and then returned to speaking to the Avatar of the Tree Father. Now I want you to hand me one thing and I will take and leave. Then you will stay here with Billy to tell him everything you know about the Tree Fathers and the Human Alliance and your experiences in fighting them. And give him copies of all the techniques and abilities you and the rest of the Tree Fathers possess. What do you want me to hand now, Your Excellency? The Tree Father spoke without emotion. He knew that such demands would arise when he swore allegiance. He no longer had the right to keep secrets to himself. Robin showed a meaningful smile. Give me the way to access the planet's spirit. Return to Earth. A term used to call the process undertaken by some Treyant creatures to transform into what is known as ancient Treyant. But what exactly is return to Earth? The Treyants are just plants. It is not as if their ancestors were vegetation. Rather, each one of them was once a tree or an ordinary plant. This can be easily observed since in the golden age of the Treyant, even the cornstalks in the fields owned by humans would suddenly pull out their roots from the ground and run away before they get eaten by the cattle. As for their life as Treyants after getting their intelligence, it is definitely not like the life of any other intelligent creature. They have become a mixture of intelligent creatures and plants, and even their behavior is always strange. They have no desires or ambitions, they have innate physical strength, but they do not know what to do with it, and they have a long life that they do not know what to expend on. But even a plant, after living for hundreds or thousands of years without a goal, will begin to think about the reason behind becoming a Treyant and try to explore its true self and search for its origins and goals in life. As for the goals, there are none. What can possibly be the goal of a tree? Even after their transformation into Treyants, they spent most of their days sleeping or in seclusion somewhere enjoying the sun. The difference between their current lives and their previous lives is that now they can say audibly, "The weather is beautiful today." The Treyants are, by default, loved by nature, so they are not looking for a more luxurious life. They do not want to harm anyone, take advantage of anyone, or seek companionship. They do not even recognize borders and private lands. Simply put, their goals are almost non-existent. Perhaps this is the real reason behind the Trent's laziness. None of them wanted to invent something to strengthen themselves, nor did one of them show up and declare he would lead them to a glorious era. Nothing. Even the ancient Treyants had not invented any new technique until the massacre began. So all that remains for them is to search for their origins. But this is also a closed path. First, they have no ancestors, and as for their personal origins, they were just ordinary plants, but at least on this path, they have a glimmer of hope for what they should do. Perhaps they should return to their origins and become trees again. Why don't I let go of my ability to move and speak and go back to being a tree? This will surely give me the ability to grow again instead of being stuck in this small body for 6,000 years. At least this was the idea that appeared in the head of the first Treyant who turned himself into an ancient Treyant, and indeed he succeeded. His height continued to increase rapidly on a daily basis, and his roots were planted so deep into the ground that he began to feel the smallest details of everything happening around him, to the point that he began to feel that the planet breathes and has a spirit of its own. What that tree ant did spread like wildfire. Some tree ant creatures envied him and wanted to try to return to Earth like him, and some began to venerate him because he reached the next phase but didn't want to lose their abilities either. Of course, the issue of letting go of the ability to move and speak and transforming limbs to suit the nature of an ancient tree ant is not an easy issue at all. It requires a specific method that only those tree ants who have lived for thousands of years can devise. On the steep hill in a secluded chamber beneath the imperial palace. Deep inhale. A month had passed since Robin requested a way to communicate with the spirit of the planet from the Tree Father Descartes. What he got in return was the way to return to Earth, and with it the specific location inside the ground where the spirit domain resides. Of course, thinking about digging and going physically to the core of the planet are the dreams of an ignorant, and it is not possible to be certain that he will find the spirit if he goes there physically as well, since it is a spirit at the end of the day. As for the method of returning to Earth, he does not even need to consider using it, for well, he is not even a tree ant. But it wasn't entirely useless. What this method allowed the Tree Fathers to do, Robin could compensate for by using the many heavenly laws he mastered, such as the major heavenly law of plants and the major heavenly law of earth. Or so he thought. Robin spent 2 weeks trying to reach the level of his terrestrial sensing to the same level as the Tree Fathers, or at least focusing his entire sensing on the point indicated by the Tree Father Descartes. So he made precise artificial roots using the pieces of buds and began to control them to penetrate the ground slowly in the same way as the Tree Fathers. It was difficult and required him to use a huge number of laws in varying proportions, draining him of mental strength and energy in such a terrifying way that he needed to stop and rest every few minutes. But the good thing is that he already come very close. According to his calculations, the time when he could meet the planet spirit should be today. Deep inhale. A little more. A little more. Crack. Finally, one of the artificial roots broke through a solid rock wall, but what was behind it was not more rocks, groundwater, or even volcanic magma as Robin was accustomed to seeing, but a dark light. Robin didn't have time to try to think about what happened. The moment the root made contact with that light, Robin felt a strong disturbance in his soul domain. In the next moment, Robin felt that his surroundings had changed. Everything around him was vague and pitch black, but at the same time, it was full of spots emitting bright lights. He raised his hand to see if there was any change and found that it was smaller and silver in color. He was in his Silver Soul avatar. You there? Who the hell are you? Someone leaked the location? Why would something like this happen? It must be that traitor Descartes. Who else? He already declared that he joined the Empire. I just didn't think he would get that low. Damn it, what exactly is that bastard thinking? He even gave up the world spirit to lick the invader's boots? He is a shame to all of us. He must be put to death. Once again, Robin did not have time to think about what had happened. The sounds of shouting around him forced him to look in its direction, or more precisely, he had already looked in that direction before, but he ignored them. Those who had just spoken were 3 huge, illuminated orbs, standing at equal distances around an even larger orb. Thinking about it, those 3 of them reminded him of Hoffenheim's soul form when he first saw him. Their sizes may vary a little, but they all look almost the same in every other aspect. Robin's Silver Soul avatar's lips turned into a smile, and he put his hand behind his back comfortingly. Let me guess, you 3 are Tree Fathers? Are you here to plot against me or for the sake of the refinement process? And where are the rest of you? I thought there were 5 of you now. Anyway, seeing you here is good too. It means that I've finally reached my destination. Let me guess, you are one of the invaders? Even their emperor, maybe? One of the 3 soul orbs calmed down a little from the initial shock and spoke. You're damn right I am. You have won a medium purity energy stone. You can come to my headquarters at any time to claim your reward. Robin raised a finger and pointed at the person who spoke and laughed out loud. The 3 soul balls looked at each other for a moment before one of them started laughing and his spiritual energy was agitated. It was clear that he intended to attack. Ha ha ha. We were wondering a while ago what we should do with you, but you brought yourself to your death. Isn't that ridiculous? Robin raised his eyebrows slightly and the smile on his face grew until it was almost ear to ear. You know what? I was about to say those exact words to you. Then he raised his hand and silver soul energy began to flow. The silver soul force moved and surrounded the three white soul orbs with a speed that the three of them were unable to comprehend. When they also tried to activate their own power to evade the silver force, they found that they could not control their soul force. Even worse, they could no longer move or speak, as if their consciousness was completely blocked. The three of them panicked. Even though they were just huge features orbs right now, Robin could sense their reactions easily. This was not something they had experienced or even heard of before. Haha, isn't this much better? How beautiful is silence? Robin's silver avatar looked up and closed his eyes, then pretended to take a deep inhale while still maintaining his smile. You know what? I actually like silence a lot and appreciate people who speak little. Maybe it's because I grew up in an emotionally dry environment and got used to seclusions from a young age. Hey, why are you looking at me like that? Don't you like me talking about my past, you heartless person? If you lot dare to say something, say it to my face. Oh, my apologies. I forgot that you are completely helpless and cannot say a word without my permission, ahaha. Robin laughed out loud and snapped his fingers. The silvery membrane around the three soul avatars weakened slightly. Otherworldly invader Robin Burton, what exactly are you trying to do? One of the three orbs shouted angrily, but the panic was still evident in his words, especially when he felt that he still could not move or use his soul force. Robin rested his chin on his hand and laughed. What do I intend to do? I'll teach you your place, of course. Where can I find a better opportunity than this to teach you the difference between us? Normally, it would have taken me decades to eliminate your armies and reach your bodies. Do you know how much time and effort your presence here has saved me? Haha. Today is indeed something worth celebrating. Right, where are the other two tree fathers? Were they afraid when they heard that Descartes was joining me and decided to stay away from the planet's spirit domain so that I would not visit them? Smart. I can't say the same about the three of you honestly. Worth celebrating? What exactly are you celebrating? That you can imprison our consciousness here? Or do you hope that we will explode these avatars as Hoffenheim did and lose a large part of our soul force? Or will you force us to submit to you and become puppets at your mercy as you did with the traitor Descartes? Do you think that we have no way of getting out of here whenever we want? You are dreaming. One of the other three soul orbs began to speak in a relatively calm voice this time. But let's talk, this is indeed a good chance. Assuming that you succeed and destroy these avatars, and what then? You will only make us eternal enemies, and we will rain down our soldiers on your head until you and your followers are annihilated. Oh, isn't that going to happen anyway? Interesting. Robin returned to putting his hands behind his back. I don't know if you will believe me or not, but I did not come as a murderous invader. Rather, I came to open new horizons and open my eyes. I might buy some resources and information from you as well, but who would have thought that I would find a few arrogant trees that want to destroy me instead? So much so that one of you sent all his available forces to kill me without saying a word. Remind me what happened to him now. Oh, he was dead. Robin did not care about the reaction of the trees and the three fathers and continued, let us forget what happened to Hoffenheim and Descartes for a moment, and suppose that I come today and want to start over. I did not start a war and I haven't lost many men in this. I am here to start a trade now, what do you think? Then he continued with the same smile on his face, as I see it, you have three options now. First, you completely reject my existence and we continue fighting until you die. Second, you accept the absolute truth of my existence and start commercial relations such that you allow me to buy anything I want, and then I will ignore your presence and consider you as any other subjects of the empire. Or thirdly, simply swear allegiance to me and be a true part of the true beginning empire that extends over more than this small planet. I will take you with me to show you the world. Is this what you tricked Descartes with and made him become your dog? That you would make him see the world? You gave him the illusion that you could break his connection with the planet and he would move again. What a stupid bastard. One of the soul orbs muttered angrily, clearly not believing it. You talk about giving us choices, but at the same time you are restricting us. Why don't you let us go first and then we will choose what we want? Another spoke. Haha, so you can try to escape? Do you think I'm a fool? No, 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 there are no democratic options here. Either use oath patterns now to swear eternal loyalty, or become ordinary citizens and give me what I want, or I will destroy these avatars of yours now. I know it's a difficult decision, especially since you are angry now and started to feel how helpless you truly are. So in order not to be called a dictator, I will give you a chance to think carefully. 10 minutes is good enough. Think about it and I will get back to you shortly, hee hee. After the last word, Robin waved his left hand again, and the blockade of the Silver Soul force around the 3 soul avatars intensified and they were again unable to speak. Then he advanced towards the huge orb in the middle of the field. That orb was radiating a faint green color, but it looked like the sun in the middle of the pitch-black darkness. There was something inside him telling him that what he was seeing now was a soul, but at the same time, it did not look like a living soul like him or the other 3. It seemed as if something was missing from it. When Robin examined it for a moment, he noticed that the shapes on its surface were not patterns of laws like those he was accustomed to seeing, but rather it appeared to be a map of some kind, a map of the planet Greenland. Robin opened his mouth slightly, surprised by what he was seeing. Then he began walking slowly around the orb, placing his hands behind his back as if he wanted to engrave a map of the planet in his mind until he reached a spot where a huge tree appeared from. Above, a tree he knew well. It was the body of Hoffenheim. Robin's curiosity prompted him to extend his hand towards the tree and tap on it. The next moment, the image in front of him began to quickly approach the ground until he could see a live scene of what was now happening around Hoffenheim's body. Whistling sound. Robin couldn't help but let out a faint whistle. This simple feature allows all Tree Fathers to know precisely what is going on anywhere on the planet at all times. He also feels that if he touches the scene in front of him with his soul, he will be able to speak and everyone will hear him as well. This is exactly what happened when the 6 Tree Fathers spoke in the battle against the warlords. Of course, the Tree Fathers cannot use this feature to spy on each other, as this place is open for every one of them to see, but they undoubtedly used it to monitor every movement made by the Imperial Army during the war on the Tree Father Hoffenheim. When Robin was about to complete another round around this outline of the planet Greenland, he noticed something strange happening. The light surrounding the outline of the planet began to fall and gather in front of Robin quickly. Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly, but he did not feel any hostile intent from that light towards him, so he allowed him to continue whatever he was doing, and he soon began to take on a human form. Almost human form. After the shards of light finally settled, Robin found himself in front of a little girl. No, a little deer. Or maybe both. Whatever was standing in front of him looked like a human child of 7 or 8 years old, staring at him with big eyes and a small mouth, but at the same time, deer antlers came out of her head, and a small, fluffy tail came out of her lower back, and even her nose and feet looked like that of a deer, and even its long green hair could not cover her long, fluffy ears. The deer girl in front of him was looking at him with her big eyes filled with intense curiosity. Perhaps because his current Silver Soul avatar is barely as tall as she is, or because he also has human features while she is used to seeing those giant orbs. Who are you? Both Robin and the little deer girl asked at the same time. Both Robin and the little girl asked at the same time, "Who are you?" Then they looked at each other again for an unknown time. Robin raised his eyebrows slightly. There is someone on this planet who still doesn't know who I am? This makes me a little disappointed. I know you well, Emperor of Conquerors, but... Finally, the deer girl took a few steps and gently extended her hand towards Robin's silver avatar, then finally spoke again in a sharp but gentle childlike voice. This Silver Soul avatar of yours. A silver soul is not something that can appear in the young planetary belt. How did this happen? Who are you? Oh, can you determine this just by looking? Although I don't understand what a silver soul is yet, it can be said that I have been lucky since I was young in matters of the soul. I was blessed with a soul that was much stronger than average, and then I created powerful soul techniques that pushed my soul to this strength. I never thought I would have this strange silver soul transformation, but I think it's a good thing. You could say that my silver soul is just a coincidence that resulted from an accumulation of unplanned events. Robin still had his hands behind his back while raising his eyebrows slightly. Even the Tree Fathers couldn't be sure that his soul had become stronger than their own. They felt only it was strange. Amazing. I thought I would never see anything like this again. The dear girl spoke gently, still moving her hand over Robin's face. Robin left it for a few seconds and then asked, "And you? If that huge orb is the spirit of the planet, are you its consciousness?" The dear girl pulled her hand and nodded with smiling eyes. She looked very cute. Then, with a slight wave of her hand, she sent an orb of gentle light toward Robin, which in turn allowed the light orb to touch his avatar. After closing his eyes for a few moments, Robin opened them with an expression of shock and surprise. "Did you just give me your refinement method?" And the soul force is one of the biggest factors in refining a planet's spirit. With your current soul strength, you will finish the refinement process much sooner than them. The dear girl nodded and pointed toward the 3 Tree Fathers' soul avatars. Although they could not move or speak, their aura could easily be felt, and the trio's aura now was one of anger and panic. Robin felt that they were about to explode internally. But no way, let them try as much as they want. Robin laughed for a moment when he noticed the reactions of the 3 Tree Fathers. He understood them. Just a short while ago, they were celebrating that the refiners had become only 5 after finally getting rid of Hoffenheim, and swearing to never let Descartes enter this domain again after he declared his loyalty to the invaders. But suddenly a new rival appeared for them, and according to the words of the planet's spirit, he will even be much faster than them. How are they supposed to feel? What really surprised Robin was the way the planet's spirit was approaching him. Even if she was disappointed with the Tree Fathers, they had still accompanied her for more than 200,000 years. Is it normal for her to sell them cheaply like that? Interesting. Robin raised his hand to slowly rub his chin, then pointed towards the planet's spirit with a smile. "Then please do tell, why should I refine you? Why not? Haven't you heard enough from Descartes? I can be very useful." The girl tilted her head to the side, furrowing her eyebrows. She looked as if she had been wronged. "Oh, you know the details of my dialogue with Father Descartes as well." Robin raised his eyebrows again. Although Descartes had already announced that he had sided with the true beginning empire and began cooperating with them to protect the new borders, he definitely did not mention the details of the meeting between him and Robin to anyone. But now this girl spoke as if she were sitting with them. His interest in the spirit of planet Greenland increased again. "What you heard from Descartes does not make you useful, but extremely dangerous." Robin shook his head gently. "What else do you have? Eternal life is not useful for you? You may say this because you are still young, but do you know what old people do to secure for themselves one more day of life? You have eternal life that is easy to obtain, but you say it is dangerous. You are too difficult to please, uncle." The dear girl raised both hands in a way that suggested helplessness. "Uncle? Do you know how old are you? Never mind, your eternal life isn't worth a single coin. You can sell this crap to those idiots over there. Not me." Robin laughed and pointed towards the 3 Tree Fathers' souls. The 3 Tree Fathers didn't know if they should feel humiliated or be pleased that Robin wasn't interested. "That isn't too nice of you. Do you think I lied? My eternal life is the real deal." The dear girl put her little hand at her waist, sounding a little angry but still adorable. "I haven't said it wasn't, but that doesn't mean it isn't dangerous." Robin shook his head. "Let me ask you a few questions and your answers will determine exactly why this is dangerous. What do you think?" "Hee, that sounds fun. Ask." The girl clapped. "First, does this eternal life mean that I will become immune to killing? Or does it indicate that my natural lifespan has only become unlimited?" Robin raised a finger and asked seriously, "Immune to killing? Your imagination has gone too far, uncle. How can I make you unkillable? I will only connect your lifeline to my vitality. I am destined to live 5 billion years or so before my core begins to decompose and explode. This way you too will have a long lifespan of 5 billion years, and after my death, you will return to drain the life force from your own life vine as you do now. You can even find yourself another planet spirit to refine then. Meaning you won't lose anything or die with me. It may not be eternal life in the literal sense, but 5 billion years it's not too bad either, don't you think? Ha, what does a person like me, who is living among countless conflicts all the time, do with this much lifespan? I pray every day to stay alive until my matter in planet Nahari is finished. This eternal life of yours would only benefit me if I remained hidden somewhere. And even then I know my luck in these matters too damn well. Even if I escaped everything and remained hidden, underground problems would come to me and I would find someone to kill me. Robin gave a chuckle. He is about 200 years old, but he was very close, more than he can remember, and once his body actually died. 5 billion years? This is indeed tempting, but no one will stay out of trouble for that long. Let's move on to the next question. After you are completely refined, will you be subordinate to me forever, or can someone else refine you for themselves? And if this is possible, will this only happen after I die, or can you follow someone else during my lifetime? Robin raised a second finger. This question had been on his mind ever since he learned that all the ancient Treant could refine the spirit at the same time. The dear girl put her hand on her mouth and giggled. What a strange question. Uncle, I am not your wife to continue my life as a sad widow after you die. Of course, if you die, I will need another owner. Plus, I am designed to follow the strongest possible owner, so if someone comes and defeats you, I can choose to abandon you and let him refine me, even if you are still alive, so you should stay strong. Robin opened his mouth, raised his eyebrows slightly as if he was surprised, and began to clap. Beautiful, beautiful. So even after refining you, I will have to deal with people who want to take you from me, right? Even if I tried to hide under the ground somewhere to enjoy my new lifespan, everyone would look for me to kill me so that they could take you from me. Then he pointed at the dear girl casually. How nice, so let me get this straight. After I refine you, not only will I still be killable, but you will also give a very strong motivation to all the powerful people in the world to come and kill me. Did I understand this correctly? Don't you think you are being too cowardly, uncle? The dear girl folded her arms on her small chest and looked at Robin with a playful smile. You have an army with which you can conquer a powerful planet like me. And you have secrets in your body that enabled you to destroy 6 warlords that I personally supervise creating and know how strong they are. And of course, there is no need to talk about the strength of your silver soul. What are you afraid of? You are making me reconsider if I want you as my owner. Humph. Robin furrowed his eyebrows for a few seconds and looked towards the planet Spirit with a complicated look. When I heard about your previous actions from Descartes, I imagined that you were just a foolish young spirit who unintentionally caused trouble. But now I am beginning to suspect that what is happening on this planet was planned by you. Nonsense. Why are you accusing this sweet little miss of such terrible things? All I did was say a few words, but those evil creatures wreaked havoc on me. They are the criminals here. Didn't you see me punishing them in every way? The dear girl put one hand on her waist and the other pointed toward the 3 soul orbs with an angry expression. Oh really? A while ago you mentioned the young planetary belt when we were talking about my silver soul. That means you know about the older planets, right? If the ancient Treant knew what would happen when Greenland qualified for the middle-aged planetary belt, would they have battled to their death like this? I doubt it. They would have fought in the first place if they knew that you are just a planet among millions and not the whole world as they used to think. You can deceive those locals all you want, but be careful not to do the same to me. I don't mind returning this planet to 0 after I'm done with it. All I have to do is kill every intelligent being or transport them into another planet. It shouldn't be that hard. Robin raised his head defiantly, his eyes shining with killing intent for a moment. The dear girl lowered the hand she was pointing towards the spirits of the Tree Fathers and went back to looking at Robin, still placing one hand on her waist. This time her look turned from innocence and curiosity to a strange smile. Let's all calm down here. You're making me look very bad. I didn't lie to them. You didn't tell all the facts either. Robin said seriously, the eternal life you promise will end the moment Greenland enters the middle-aged planetary belt. You know that, right? That 5 billion years bullshit is a honey trap. There are countless numbers of experts in the middle-aged planetary belt, and I refuse to believe that this eternal life thing isn't known there. Those clumsy trees won't last a day or two in the middle-aged planetary belt, and you know it. If they kept on pretending to act like deaf and mute trees, they would have been able to survive for millions of years, and might even be taken in like pets under some overlord. But your offer already killed most of them, and the winner among them will turn into camp firewood in 300,000 years. Then his voice became cold. Do you think this kind of information is something that you can ignore? What would have happened if you told them? You would kill each other to chase a dream that doesn't exist. I think a few changes might have happened in your history, no? At least it would have prevented some of the unfortunate events that you punished them for, if you ask me. If I told them back then, they would have still fought, and the course of history would have gone the same way. The spirit spoke seriously, her childish nature gone for a moment. Everything was decided when I mentioned eternal life. The dream may not be available to them, but it still exists. If you had to enter a big game like this to win a major prize, or die a death full of glory, or sunbathe alone day and night and pray for it not to rain today, which one would you choose? Robin shook his head. That's not your business to decide. You had a chance to explain everything. Even today, you could have spoken up instead of sending those disasters that make them stronger instead of weakening them. The fact that you stayed silent means that you like what's happening. I'm a shy girl and I'm not the type to talk. No one asked me, so I didn't see the need to say anything else. Do you want me to tell them everything I know? It doesn't work like that. The dear girl put her hand behind her back again with a playful look. At this point, Robin could clearly feel the souls of the three tree fathers shaking. They may have reached some conclusions or perhaps not even understood anything, but the conversation was simply terrifying. Had they really been deceived all that time? Then tell me, why do you have information about planetary belts? A lump of dirt floating in space like you is not supposed to know about the existence of other planets, regardless of the way they are classified. A moment ago you said you are designed to follow the strongest. What did you mean? Robin continued his questions in a stern tone. You won't find an answer with me. The dear girl raised her small shoulders. What if I insist? Robin took a step forward, his powerful aura completely exploding. You can insist as much as you want. There are things I am not authorized to say no matter what. And I'm sorry in advance for hurting your self-confidence. I'm afraid you won't be able to do anything to me anyway. The dear girl passed her finger and pecked Robin's chest with a smile, as if she didn't pay any attention to his soul strength at all. Hey, why do you take everything so seriously, uncle? Suppose you'll have problems when I enter the middle-aged planetary belt. What's your problem with that? I still have plenty of time before entering the middle-aged planetary belt, just a little under 300,000 years. You can refine me now and simply abandon me before the hunters come for you. Having 300,000 years of extra life isn't too bad of a deal. Then she continued with her shining eyes, think about it, this may be a losing deal for the ancient Treant things, but you are human, and no matter how powerful humans become, the laws of the universe prevent them from exceeding the age of 100,000 years without outsourced support. And these types outsource support that can prolong life is extremely limited, the most famous of which is that it possesses a planet and be its ruler. I am now offering you 300,000 years of additional lives, during which you can reach high levels of power and increase your original lifespan. And after you abandon me, you will rely on your own life force to live for another 100,000 years. This is not a bad deal at all if you want my opinion. And who knows? You may change your mind after 300,000 years when you become stronger and decide to remain my owner and defend me. You have options, that's all that I'm saying. Robin's aura calmed down again when he felt that the dear girl didn't care for it, and his eyes became very cold as he looked at her. The planet's spirit is indeed not as childish as he was expecting, and it can even be said that engaging with her is very dangerous. He obviously threatened her 2 or 3 times already, but even in such a situation, she's still trying to get his favor. What kind of self-control is this? And what's with that, there are things I'm not allowed to say. Who authorizes her to say what she says, and who gives her the information? You make sense, but your offer is still useless to me. I'm the type who gets bored quickly. What will I do with 400,000 years? What else do you have? Robin abandoned his serious looks and decided to go with the energy of the planet's playful spirit. I can give you that. The dear girl tapped her cheek a few times and began to speak. But Robin raised his hand and interrupted her. Then looked towards the tree parent spirits. Have you lot heard enough? What was said now should be enough to make your decision easier, but our conversation later should be a little more private. And the 10-minute deadline has expired anyway. Tell me what you have decided. Surrender or destruction? With a wave of his hand, the restriction on the souls of the 3 tree fathers was eased. Now they were able to speak again and move slightly, but they did not begin to speak right away. Rather, each of them began to look at the other 2 as if waiting for someone else to begin speaking, and then finally their eyes turned at the same time towards the dear girl. The spirit of the planet abandoned them and is literally seducing an invader coming from another world to refine her for himself. They spent hundreds of thousands of years sensing her presence and then trying to refine her and kill what they killed for her. But in a moment she threw them aside as if they were trash. How is this different from your lover cheating on you? If these were their real bodies when they were still Treyant creatures, one of them might have started crying by now. And that talk about planetary belts? About it being a losing deal for Treyant? That the person who will succeed in refining the planet's spirit would be killed after only 300,000 years. What should they do with this information now? Robin remained silent, watching them with half-closed eyes. He knew very well what situation they found themselves in now. Either submitting without conditions and abandoning their dreams, or declaring war on him and abandoning their soul avatars. Declaring war on him was the most appropriate option 10 minutes ago. The 3 of them would have undoubtedly chosen to abandon their soul avatars and perhaps try to blow them and take Robin's soul avatar down with them. Robin knew this well, and this is why he gave them the 10-minute deadline, maybe find one among them whose reason would prevail over emotions. But now, after they heard his conversation with the spirit of the planet, the situation is completely different. The real-time limit that they have to spend in actual thinking begins now. After about an additional minute, one of the 3 soul avatars finally began to speak. Evergreen, you know they are invaders, right? They only came to kill and destroy. They haven't eaten from your soil, nor were they born on your back. How could you allow him to refine you? The dear girl shrugged. Whoever refines me must be the strongest available person. His race and origins doesn't matter. As you just heard, in the middle-aged planetary belt, there are fierce battles over the ownership of planetary spirits, and only the strongest among the competitors gets one. If we can kill this person and expel the invaders, will you allow us to continue the refinement process? That soul avatar looked like he was about to get down on his knees and beg. The girl raised her small shoulders again. If you want to continue coming into my domain and resume the refinement even before expelling the invaders, I will not stop you. It is true that it will be useless due to the speed of this new competitor, and I doubt you would have the courage to come again anyway, but still, I will not stop you. I, Labakan, have spent too long on this matter that it became a part of who I am. I have always overlooked the seas of blood that stain my hands and convinced myself that I would restore the heavenly laws to what they were and allow the Treyant creatures to be born again and increase their numbers more than before. Even as I speak now, I can still imagine the day when I will finish refining the planet's spirit and become a god for all future generations. Robin maintained his silence and contented himself with looking at Labakan's soul with uninterested eyes. In his view, whether the 3 fathers chose submission or war, in both cases he would be the winner. I have to kill all the invaders. I have to fight the rest of the tree fathers. I have to resume the refinement process even though I haven't reached 8% after all these years. And I have to prepare to fight much more powerful invaders after 300,000 years, and most likely die then. How ironic, on my way to eternal life. An unmoving wall of death stood before me. After a few seconds, Labakan continued, this time in a harsher tone and a louder voice. No, I refuse to believe that everything will come to an end like this. What if there is an occupier? I will kill him. Will there be a competition in 300,000 years? After I have finished refining the planet spirit and created a sea of Treyant armies, I will see who can snatch the planet spirit from me. I, Labakan, will fight to the end. Robin showed a shocked and amused facial expression at the same time. It was clear that he did not expect to hear this. Then he looked sideways at the dear girl, and found her already looking at him and stifling her laughter with both hands as if she was telling him, "Didn't I tell you? Even if I told them about the risks, they would continue what they were doing anyway." Robin shook his head a few times, smiling. "Nice. I respect that. What about you too?" Robin pointed towards the other two soul orbs. "Do you have something to replace the planet spirit for us? Show me something tangible and I will follow you." After a few seconds, one of them spoke, a voice that sounded quite sad. "Snoist, are you thinking of selling everything you worked for like that traitor Descartes?" Tree Father Labakan burst out shouting, "What about you? Floris? You still have a warlord ready to fight. Don't tell me you're afraid too." Father Tree Snoist's soul avatar pretended he didn't hear anything. Father Tree Floris' soul avatar also ignored the shouting and looked at Robin with a complicated look. He didn't know who to stand with right now. "Haha. Something to replace the planet's spirit? I heard that before." Robin laughed out loud. "Descartes had such a long conversation with me, and in the end, he was convinced of what I could offer. Frankly, I don't feel like I need to explain to you or promise you anything right now. Just surrender and accept the soul enslavement seal calmly, and then I will give you until you are satisfied. If you don't trust my words, then trust that Father Tree Descartes was not convinced to follow me until he saw what pleased him. You don't even want to exhaust yourself a little to talk about what you can offer us? How can we trust you when you already treat us like we're inferior even before we follow you? And what's with that soul enslavement seal thing?" Tree Father Snoist also started shouting. "Honestly, I don't plan on making friends here. Whether you follow me or not won't make any difference. I came for resources, information, and training for my men." Robin crossed his arms over his chest. "I promised Descartes a few useful toys and gave him a lot of my time only because I found him to be a bit clever and worth the effort. But now that he's on my side and giving me all the information I want, I just need resources and training men, and those things I can only get from war." Then he began to move his eyes between the souls of the Tree Fathers Snoist and Floris. "Swear allegiance to me and accept the soul enslavement seal, and as I promised, I will give you until you are satisfied. Or follow that fool and fight at your leisure. Do not expect tempting offers from me here. I am just giving you a chance to save your lives." "Alas, let it be war then," declared Tree Father Snoist. No matter how he feels, his dignity does not allow him to bend the knee under these circumstances. "Let the war decide then." Father Floris followed him. "Haha, excellent. Invader Robin Burton. Soon you will open your eyes and see what the Tree Fathers can do." Father Tree Labakan laughed angrily. TSK Robin gave a half-smile when he got the answer and then sent 3 small vortexes towards Labakan's soul incarnation. This would be a good opportunity to strengthen his soul and scare the other 2 at the same time. "Don't even dream about it." But at this moment, the soul of Tree Father Labakan shouted and activated something. Many symbols began to appear around him, and then he disappeared. Robin was astonished by what he saw, so he quickly tightened the Silver Soul Force restraint around Tree Father Snoist and Tree Father Floris. But even under the strongest restraint that Robin could impose, they both also repeated the same process, strange symbols appearing around their souls, before they disappeared from the domain as well. In the blink of an eye, Robin found himself standing alone with the dear girl. The dear girl clapped and laughed. You pressured them so hard that they paid a heavy price for escaping. Uncle, wouldn't it have been better to soften their hard brains with some promises? Even my exalted self is trying to get closer to you in the same way. There is no shame in that. Their fighting power will not be of much use to me in the coming war that contains hundreds of martial emperors. What I need are resources, a lot of resources, and if I accept them as my side and they become my followers, how can I take what they have? I will be embarrassed to take their property. It will be my duty to increase it for them. You heard my conversation with Descartes. Did you hear me say that I would take anything from him? I just admired his intelligence, so I decided to take him in, that's all. Robin muttered without looking at the dear girl. As for the dear girl, she raised her small shoulders and returned to standing silently. Robin did not take his eyes off the spot where the 3 Tree Fathers' soul avatars had vanished for a long time. Then finally he returned to look at the dear girl with golden eyes as he pointed behind him. Those phenomena and symbols that appeared around them are actually patterns that I have never seen before, but I felt similar energy coming from you. What just happened had something to do with you, isn't it? The dear girl raised her small shoulders. Don't look at me. They sacrificed a large part of their refinement in order to free themselves. I can't refuse to intervene after announcing the intention to sacrifice their refinement. Otherwise, where will my credibility go? Planet spirit refinement can be useful in cases like this as well. Robin was astonished. He knew how powerful the Silver Soul Force was and how much pressure the soul avatars were feeling. It was not something that was easy to escape from. Why didn't Hoffenheim use this method then? That thought crossed Robin's mind for a moment, but he quickly laughed at himself and forgot about it. Those three used the planet's spirit refinement to escape. But where was Hoffenheim going to escape when he was already inside his soul domain? Refining me, even to a small degree, gives its owner an unlimited number of options, especially in matters of the soul and heavenly laws. As long as what you want to do is not too exaggerated and can pay the price, everything is on the table. The dear girl raised her slender left hand to flex her non-existent muscles. I already told you I'm awesome. Have you finally been convinced of my importance? If I were entirely yours, the options open to you would be much greater. You even give options such as amending heavenly laws or escaping from a soul siege. These are all really useful things, but they can only be used while I am inside planet Greenland. What else do you have? Robin returned to asking with a smile, already forgetting that the souls of 3 tree fathers had just escaped from him. The dear girl started tapping on her cheek. I can make you control the weather and even the terrain as you wish, although after you completely refine me to 100%, things like this will not exhaust your level of refinement. They will consume your soul force horribly, so I do not recommend this very often. Let's see, what else? Oh, I will make you read everything in it like the palm of your hand. I can also guide you to important mining sites, ancient plants, and rare creatures. I can also guide you to the invaluable fountain of youth and the world's heart ember, and many more things you have never imagined. The dear girl then thought for a moment and added, I can't understand you, uncle. You can't imagine the advantages a world spirit gives you. You can't even imagine what's happening in the middle-aged planetary belt because of us. You have the opportunity to have a planet spirit for 300,000 years without competition, but you hesitate. Even Robin did not have the heart to simply skip these promises. Knowing the locations of treasures in the world was the best way he could quickly strengthen himself. Any one of the advantages that speak of the planet spirit is enough to make anyone gasp after it. But he tried to hold back his drooling and asked again uninterestedly, What else do you have? I feel like you are tricking me, uncle. How come all this does not please you? What else do you want? Do you want to marry me or something? The dear girl hit her foot on the ground. Her anger was very gentle. By the way, one of the tree fathers called you Evergreen a while ago. That's your name, right? Nice name. Listen, I'm an emperor who rules over several planets, and I have a silver soul that will easily enable me to refine any planet spirit I want. What you're saying is really tempting, but I can easily refine the soul of one of my other planets. Frankly, I do not like your actions, and I think that I will be the losing party if my connection with you continues. If you do not give me a strong reason to refine you, I will not bother with you, and I will destroy all the tree fathers, so they will not cultivate you either, and you will have to wait for an infinite number of years until you find one to do it. Come on. Tell me what you have. I might agree and take you under my wing. Robin pecked the dear girl's nose. Humph. I wasn't born with a name. One of those trees called me Evergreen one day, and the rest liked the name, and they started calling me that too. But I think you can use it too. It has been my name for a while now. Evergreen folded her hands and looked annoyed. Secondly, who said I would be sad if you went and refined another planet spirit? If you have the power, you can have as many of us as you want. Instead of one, take all of us, and I will be happy to have brothers and sisters with me to chat with. As you can imagine, it gets boring here most of the time. Why would I stop you? Then a strange smile appeared on her face. Just keep in mind that owning more than one planet means that you will have to defend all of them at the same time. You can't even imagine how strong you have to be to do something like this in the middle-aged planetary belt. All people who have managed to own more than one planet for a long period are all real monsters. Can you be one of them, Uncle? I hope so, hee. So the rest of the planets in the young planetary belt really have spirits like you. And refining a planet's spirit does not condemn me to stay on it or prevent me from refining another one. Interesting. Then why didn't those planetary spirits try to communicate with their creators like you did? Don't they want an owner too? Robin wondered. If the existence of a soul on planet Ura or planet Nahari was discovered, everything would change about them. Of course, all planets have spirits. But in the beginning, our consciousness is half asleep. In that state, we supervise the planet's vital processes and absorb energy from the primordial chaos around us. And we may choose random embryos to mess around with from time to time. When our inhabitants begin to cultivate energy, our consciousness becomes more active, so that we begin to encourage those who follow the paths of cultivation and research to move forward faster. And when one of our residents begins to use the second stage of any law, our own spirit domain would be opened and our consciousness is transformed until it takes on a distinctive form like this cute form in front of you. Evergreen put her hand behind her back and explained, then casually took a few steps away. Secondly, you are accusing me of a serious accusation, Uncle. Who said I communicated with anyone? Huh? So what exactly have you done? Since that day the ancient Traiants came here, and you mean? Suddenly Robin remembered something and stopped. Evergreen turned to face Robin directly and raised her thumb, laughing. Exactly. We cannot communicate with the inhabitants of our own will until we reach the middle-aged planetary belt. There, the inhabitants will have enough power to know this secret and compete for us, but knowing now will only lead to destruction. You saw what happened in Greenland. Our main mission is to strengthen the population and monitor from afar and perhaps guide them towards the right path without revealing ourselves. But if there was ever a special resident and he reached us by himself, then things would be different. Then we are allowed to choose to communicate with him or not, and I simply chose to tell. Why can't you communicate with your inhabitants? What do you mean by impermissible to communicate with the inhabitants? It is very clear that you are able to share your voice and your presence with all the creatures of the planet immediately if you want. Robin asked quickly, but Evergreen's only response was a shrug, and then went back to take a walk around the huge green orb. Evergreen, I want to ask you something. It may have nothing to do with your refinement, but it has been on my mind for a long time. Robin took a few steps to meet the dear girl as she was returning from the tour around the green ball. You just said something about tampering with some embryos before energy cultivation era. Are the planet spirits responsible for the variable molecules in the blood? The variable molecules? Evergreen continued walking, but this time she seemed to be thinking about something. I mean this one. Robin raised his hands and shaped his soul force to take the shape of the variable molecules found in the Nahari giant's blood, even imitating their movements. Oh, these are called variable molecules now. I think it's an appropriate name. Then Evergreen paused to look into Robin's eyes. Don't you think you're being stingy, Uncle? You want fundamental information from me like this for free? Robin smiled playfully. You can consider our little discussion a way to get closer and show goodwill. Telling me will not harm you, right? Unless it's one of those things that is forbidden to talk about, then you can say it and I will stop asking. I notice that you like to act smart, Uncle, but I will go along with you. No, talking about this topic is not forbidden. Rather, it is common information in the middle-aged planetary belt. Evergreen returned to begin another tour around the green ball. Yes, the spirits of the planets are responsible for implanting these variable molecules, or more precisely, the emergence of mutants from the original races. Why would you do something like this? Robin suddenly shouted and took a step forward. Finally, the tip of the string appeared in front of him. Why not? Sometimes there are beasts that are too strong and dangerous for life to develop, so we have to get rid of them and raise a new, more rational generation of their offspring, as we usually do with those annoying stupid dinosaurs. And sometimes we have a race of beasts that are meat-producing or good for fertilizing the soil, so we help produce mutants from it to better serve the planet and serve intelligent life on us. Don't humans do something like this? You hybridize chickens, livestock, and dogs in selective ways to increase the effectiveness of a certain trait in them and choose the most suitable branch of them. What we, the spirits of the planets, do is something similar. Robin shook his head and began to wave nervously. You know this is not what I am asking about. Why do you produce mutants from humans? And why would you produce completely different intelligent beings like the Treyant? Isn't one intelligent race on each planet enough? It is impossible that you do not realize the consequences of this action. Evergreen raised both her hands and giggled. I'm sorry, but you will receive the same answer. Secondly, what are the consequences you are talking about? Do you mean wars? What do we have to do with this? You are the ones who hate anything that does not look like you. Wars are your choice, and their terrible effects result from the ugliness of your actions. Why do you blame us for it? Robin's tongue was tied when he heard that explanation. He had nothing to say, so he remained silent. But Evergreen continued, We are indeed implanting the variable molecules accompanied by certain patterns into the embryos inside the womb of the mothers of the human race to create a new ethnicity, but who said that that race should isolate and grow up as a new race and start annihilation wars with humans? This is what humans gain for themselves. Every time when the child begins to grow up and seems different from his peers, he is ostracized and even expelled. Then she added, what comes next is even more predictable. When that child mates with a human, it is his genes that get passed on to their children. So you now have a family of the new ethnicity, then a village, then a tribe of ugly mutants whom humans treat cruelly, and after a few generations, the new ethnicity forgets that they are even humans and conflicts begin over lands that later lead to wars of genocide. Evergreen paused and looked back at Robin. Here in Greenland, I had nothing to do with creating Treyants because the planet was created with this trait, but I actually tried to create a new ethnicity from humans 5 times. Do you know what happened? 3 babies were killed immediately after birth, and 2 of them were persecuted until they escaped and started their own families isolated from people and became other races, and yet the human tribes seemed to forget their war with the Treyants and issued an order to kill anyone from those 2 families on sight. So you may always hear about the humans and other intelligent races in Greenland, but you haven't seen any of them yet. Robin lowered his head. Of course, he knew how ugly human nature was when it came to dealing with people who were different from them. But why would you make mutants out of humans anyway? I can understand you doing this to beasts and animals, but why humans? These behaviors you are talking about are indeed bad. But it is unavoidable, and the fact that they exist on all planets suggests that it is human nature and there is no escape from it. So why do you create mutants if you know the outcome? Why don't you intervene to end the wars when you have the ability to control everything inside the planet? Evergreen raised her index finger and pointed upward. To produce the stronger version, of course. These new breeds are not entirely different races, they are still human. What's the problem if we mess with them to bring out the best in them? What is the problem if give one of them the ability to breathe underwater and give another one wings? How is that our fault? Even the wars you talk about, won't they strengthen the winner? Continuous wars are the secret behind evolution. Some guy over there would be looking for new ways to kill, and the guy over here would be looking for a way to break through to a higher realm to avenge his family. It's impossible to look at a large war from start to finish and don't find a single new innovation. Then she put her hands behind her back again. Look, for example, at the Treyant race of my planet. After they were lazy and thought that planting their feet on the ground and basking in the sun was their greatest development, they became masters in long-term wars and wars for territorial control. They were also able to possess several heavenly laws and high-level spirit techniques. And humans? Didn't they become experts in defensive wars and were able to control the local beasts and even reach the pinnacle of how to use the 3rd stage of many laws? Some of them even began to explore the 4th stage of the heavenly laws. Would all this have happened without a war that pushed them to have more power? Leave my planet for now if you still see that I am the reason behind all evils, and look at the history of the planet you came from and the history of the planets that you said you own. Aren't all great innovations and developments linked to war? This is the answer to your question. Although we didn't start those wars, there's no reason for us to stop them either. Is this why you started the great ancient Treant War and stood and watched from the sidelines the annihilation of humans while giving them those weak calamities that benefited them instead of harming them? Is this how the spirits of the planets view us? Robin gritted his teeth. Haha, I started the war? I only said a few words, but a war of extermination broke out. Do you think the situation would have changed if the people who heard the information were humans and not the Treants? You all are not very smart for intelligent races. I had an opportunity to quickly develop myself and gain an owner, so I took it. This is everything you need to know. Evergreen laughed loudly and went back to walking around the green orb. Then tell me, what are the origins of humans anyway, and why do they appear on all the planets? And why do all the planetary spirits try to strengthen their inhabitants anyway? And I can see clearly that you are not stupid. If you wanted an owner, you could have contacted one ancient Treant in secret and asked him to refine you. You wanted to see a war between them. Evergreen put her finger to her mouth and winked at Robin, before prancing around the green orb happily again. Even though Robin's soul avatar was just a mass of the extremely powerful Silver Soul Force, at that moment he still felt like his legs were weak as he collapsed sitting on the dark ground. The amount of information he had heard from the planet's spirit so far could be described as shocking, to say the least. Robin did not know how to look at the spirit of the planet right now, creating mutants from humans, secretly encouraging wars of extermination, talking about lives as if they were worthless, the existence of a larger entity that determines what they do and what they say. If Robin knew that any other creature do such things, perhaps Robin would have declared war on him immediately out of dread and to destroy that absolute evil. Evergreen didn't even try to soften her words. She openly declared that all of this was for the sake of rapidly developing the population and selecting the best mutant from humans. Is this supposed to be a justification for everything? And for what? Some heartless criminals, when they want to start a new profitable business, would bring dozens of rats, starve them, and then let them kill and eat each other. And the rat that survives in the end, they call him the king of the rats and engage him in betting battles. What is the difference between this and what Evergreen does? Or as she put it, what all the planetary spirits do. But at the same time, that planet spirit asks him to be its owner and offers him eternal life and mountains of easy benefits. How exactly does he deal with that little dear girl? Evergreen took a few turns around the green orb as she pranced around, before finally getting bored. She stood still and yawned, then looked at Robin. You think too much, uncle. If you don't like what I said, then you will not like any other planet spirit either. If you don't want to refine me, it's not like I will force you. Go ahead and leave my domain. You said a while ago that you're going to destroy life on my surface or something like that. There is no problem with me. Some investigation will show that I was not to be blamed in anything and that it was some ignorant invaders who did it, and therefore I will not be punished. I will only have to wait a little while until I enter the middle-aged planetary belt and watch the interplanetary wars happen for me. There are only 300,000 years remaining, which is barely enough for a nap. Hee. Robin remained focused on Evergreen's face for a few seconds. This time he knew better than to ask who would be running that investigation. Although at first, I did not want to have any kind of connection with you. You have shown many benefits, and it has actually become very tempting and hard to ignore. He then sighed and the smile returned to his face. He had told Jabba before not to mess with what he couldn't handle yet, and now it was time for him to tell himself the same. The actions of planetary spirits are clearly not random and he cannot prevent them, and he is certainly not powerful or knowledgeable enough to go after the entity that controls them. But he can use the same system to take advantage of them. Now we start talking, Uncle. Evergreen applauded warmly. You know what? What I can offer you is much more than what I mentioned. Just imagine. I can guide you to anything you can think of within Greenland and help you capture it. For example, I can help you learn any heavenly law you want as long as it is available within Greenland. Oh, I understand from this that you cannot help me study laws such as space, soul, and others that are not available on the surface of the planet. Robin raised his eyebrows slightly. You are one of those people who see the half-empty part, huh? Evergreen pouted. Ha ha ha, no. I'm just trying to understand more about you. That's all. Anyway, there is no need for help. I can see the patterns I want myself. Thank you very much. Robin laughed loudly and jumped up, standing up straight again. Seeing patterns? You said it a while ago when you were talking about the phenomena around the souls of tree fathers. You don't mean the heavenly laws patterns, right? Evergreen looked tense and raised one eyebrow. Of course I do. I can see the patterns of heavenly laws and write down cultivation techniques about them. How else do you think I prepared the army that is attacking your beloved ancient Traians right now? You might not know, but I actually came from a much younger planet than you. Robin chuckled proudly. Wait, you're a truth user? How cool! Evergreen clapped enthusiastically. I've been wanting to have one for myself for a long time to speed up the pace of population development. I tried so hard to give strong souls, high intelligence, and all the help I could to those foolish humans, but in the end, the chosen ones every time end up as clan heads or reliable warriors. How stupid. Well, you have one now. You won't mind that I'm from another planet, right? Robin winked with a playful expression. Of course not, we planetary spirits don't care about these things, but I can't deny that I'm actually a little jealous because the planet you came from succeeded in raising a truth user while I didn't. I can imagine seeing an irritating smile on your planet spirit's face right now. TSK. Evergreen waved indifferently, then turned back to look at Robin excitedly. I can't believe my first owner will be a truth user. Quickly tell me how far you've come down this road. First owner? Can't you be a little optimistic? There may be no other owners. Okay? Secondly, haha, why don't you see for yourself? Robin laughed and activated the Eye of Truth again. Even though he was in his soul form, he could use it without problems. Why did your eyes suddenly start glowing golden? Come on, show me your Eye of Truth. Evergreen looked puzzled. This is it. How come you don't know it? Robin confirmed. What are you talking about? This is not wait. Those patterns moving in your eyes remind me of the Eye of Truth? That's your Eye of Truth. Evergreen looked horrified and took a few steps back. No, that's not right. The eyes of truth should shine green. Haha, this is a misunderstanding. Green is indeed the color of the Eye of Truth, but that is only at the initial phase, while the golden color is starting from the second stage of the Master Law of Truth and above. Is this your first time knowing this? Robin spoke proudly. For the first time he felt that he knew something that the planet's soul did not know. It felt good. No, you are the one who does not understand. The Eye of Truth is supposed to always remain green. The green color is the universal symbol of life, and it is common knowledge that the Eye of Truth is always green as a symbol of its goal, which is to develop the lives of intelligent beings in the universe more quickly. Why is your eye golden? In an instant, Evergreen lost all her playfulness and became serious, and even the way she moved became more aggressive. There is no need to exaggerate like this, right? The universe is vast, and even if what happened to me was a mutation, it cannot be that rare. Maybe Planet Jura or Planet Nahari did something to my eyes. Isn't that sort of thing you guys do? Robin finally spoke after being silent for a few moments. Evergreen's sudden behavior was suspicious. No, the Eye of Truth does not mutate, and how can we planet spirit touch upon something like the Eyes of Truth? You do not understand anything. I remember something. There were indeed a few who crossed the barrier of the green Eye of Truth, but in the end, all of them have ARDH. The dear girl suddenly grabbed her head and fell to her knees. Evergreen. The silver spirit avatar quickly took a few steps to check on the girl. It was clear that she was in great pain. I'm Fine. Evergreen moved Robin's hand away from her and took a few steps away while still showing pain and seriousness on her face. I'm Fine. Robin watched the girl stand away, turning her back to him and hugging herself for more than 10 minutes. Finally, Robin took 2 steps forward and called out in a low voice, Evergreen. The girl finally turned to meet his eyes again, but this time the playful look and even the serious look were gone. All that remains is a new expression filled with terror. Evergreen, what's wrong with you? There is no need to act like that, right? It's just an eye color. Robin took 2 steps forward and extended his hand, clearly trying to pat the dear girl's head. But Evergreen increased the distance between them and raised her small hands. Just give me some space for a moment, please. Then she started walking back and forth slowly. Robin's silver avatar furrowed his eyebrows slightly, then sat there, watching Evergreen's movement with his eyes. Although there was something that prevented her from finishing her words a little while ago about the fate of people who had witnessed an evolution in their own eyes of truth, the disturbed and frightened expression on her face said a lot. Well, at least they didn't see to have a happy life. As the minutes passed, Robin's questions turned to anxiety. How could this little girl not know something about him make her act like this? After about 10 minutes, he couldn't see her acting like this anymore and spoke. Little miss, don't you see that you're exaggerating too much? You may look cute, but in the end, you're a lump of dirt floating in space. What I'm going to become in the future is none of your business. How is it none of my business when you will become my owner? After you finish refining me, I will be tied to your war chariot. If you win, then I will have glory with you, and if you are killed, then I may be forever ruined because of you. Evergreen stood up and stamped her foot on the ground, clearly angry at the description of the lump of dirt. Oh, do you still agree about me refining you? Robin raised his eyebrows. Maybe the situation wasn't as bad as he thought. Evergreen looked away. Whether or not I agree is not important. I can encourage and help someone to refine me more quickly, but I cannot prevent the refinement process no matter how much I hate my new owner. The best I can do is to delay him a little. This is one of our ironclad laws. We belong to the strongest available refiner. Robin completely ignored that he heard new useful information and focused on the fact that the planet spirit thinks that she is in trouble because he is about to refine her. What kind of situation is this? A while ago she was the one trying to convince him to refine her and technically begging him to stay with her. But now it seems like she wants to kick him out sooner rather than later. Is engaging with him this bad? Of course, he couldn't ask her why, because he saw what happened to her when she tried to talk about it a while ago. Digging into this matter was pointless. Listen, I don't know what you know and I don't give a damn either. I will make my own future path and not allow my fate to be assumed halfway. The worried expression on Robin's face slowly disappeared and turned into anger mixed with pride. I am a person who has enough pride to cover all heavens and earths. If a strong person refuses to obey me, I will beat him until he kisses my feet and asks to be my slave. And if a powerless person refuses to follow me, I will feel disgusted with myself if I force it. You are free. I will not refine you until you ask me to. Then Robin stood up and a dreamy silver aura began to emanate from him. It was clear that he was about to leave the planet's spirit domain. Wait! In an instant, Evergreen reached out and grabbed Robin's wrist. Robin's silver avatar looked at the girl's hand and then at her face with furrowed brows and reversed his decision to exit. What exactly do you intend to do? Damn it! Evergreen let go of him hesitantly, then took a few steps towards the huge green orb and kicked it. Then after a few seconds she opened her small mouth again without looking at him. I'm just weighing up the risks and benefits here. Okay? I can't tell you how and why, but this is a big decision for me. Just give me some time. Robin waited a while, then sat down again and closed his eyes. Minutes or perhaps hours passed. Robin did not know. All this time he tried more than once to focus on coming to conclusions from the words of the planet spirit. But every time the terrified look on Evergreen's face interrupted his train of thought. What exactly does that girl know? To hell with it. Why not? After an unknown time, Robin heard a shout that forced him to open his eyes. He found Evergreen coming towards me with a gentle, firm look. I agree to have you refine me, but under one condition. Robin whistled softly. I thought you didn't have a choice to say yes or no. Okay, please say your condition. Robin laughed heartily and waved. The anxiety in his chest relieved greatly. Evergreen looked into Robin's eyes for a moment, then continued, I want you to build your military bases here and settle at least part of your army with me. And do not consider me a place you will only take resources from. To put it crudely, if I am going to jump into Missy wars with you, I must be in the front rows. In return, my help to you and the information that I will give you will increase automatically. I will not wait for you to request something or ask me about something. As long as I think this will benefit you, I will guide you to things that you cannot imagine without you even asking. Deal. You think a lot. What wars? I have just a small thing going on a planet called Nahari. After I finish it, I will have my empire live in peace. Robin shook his head with a smile. A small thing going on. Of course, it will always be a small thing going on that needs to be taken care of. Evergreen showed a sarcastic smile. If you think my request is simple and I might be overthinking, it's okay to promise me it, right? Robin quickly raised his eyebrows. What does this mean? Is there something he hasn't noticed yet? After a few seconds, Robin nodded. It's okay. I'll change my plan for you. I'll build cities here and consider you a pivotal planet under my authority. Are you satisfied now? Well, you can start. Evergreen said these words with great difficulty, then cleared the way for Robin to see the huge green orb in front of him. As for Robin, he did not take his eyes off Evergreen for a moment. He saw her features changing between anxiety and excitement quickly. It seemed like she had gone crazy for a moment. He wanted to say something, but he preferred to give her some time to finish what she was thinking. Then he moved towards the huge green orb, towards the spirit of the planet. Robin raised his hand and placed it on the orb, then closed his eyes. After a few minutes or so, it's not that difficult. I've already reached 1%. Robin muttered while still closing his eyes. If the Tree Fathers heard those words, maybe there wouldn't be a war since they would commit suicide out of anger. After a quarter of an hour, 2%, this took me a little more time. Robin's eyebrows furrowed slightly at the sudden difficulty. The same 2% took the Tree Fathers about 30,000 years to finish. After 1 hour, 3%. Evergreen, why is this getting harder? Is my soul not strong enough? Robin opened his eyes and looked behind him. His hands were still on the green ball. The dear girl raised both her hands. This is an automatic resistance that must happen. I'm supposed to try to delay your refinement success until others know what's going on and you have a new competition in which the strongest person wins. Sorry, this is something I can't undo, but I'm already reducing the resistance quite a bit. Be ready. The more the refinement percentage you accumulate, the less your speed will be. Of course, when your strength reaches a certain level, this type of resistance will be negligible. Trying to delay the refinement until more competition comes? Robin didn't know what to say, so he silently returned to the polishing process again. After 3 days, the refinement process has reached 10%. This is enough for now. I have a meeting with my followers that I cannot postpone any longer. I will come back to continue the process later. Robin finally lifted his hand from the huge green orb and then spoke towards Evergreen, before disappearing from the field without waiting for a response from her. The steep hill. That spot on planet Greenland that has recently become extremely famous as the Devil's Head. After all, it is from where the invaders emerge. But most of the locals did not know that that hill was randomly chosen to build the space portal on, and thus Robin and the rest were forced to make it a permanent foothold for the Empire on planet Greenland. The steep hill was not the best choice for building the space portal, and certainly not the best choice for building a city. The hill is divided into 2 halves by a huge metal wall, the upper half of which is protected by a large number of arrays that cover the ground and sky. It also contains the space gate, so it was decided that the upper half of the steep hill would be the unofficial foothold of the Empire temporarily, and thus a huge headquarters tower was built there to be under the protection of the arrays and the metal wall. Several other important structures were built, such as mortuaries for the buds, blacksmiths' factories, and rune engraving workshops, as well as some residential buildings, including a small imperial palace. Other than that, there was nothing significant on the steep hill. It was not large enough to support an entire city, and no one simply had the time or intention to build an integrated city here. On top of the steep hill, inside a small room in a residential building. This building was not specifically large or had fancy details. This particular room was small and its windows were closed, but at this moment it was housing a large number of people. For some reason, each one of them was either tapping on something nervously or moving back and forth quickly with their hands behind their backs. Would you please calm down a little? Fugon slammed the table in front of him and shouted in a low voice. How? How do we calm down in a situation like this? Literally, any word will determine our fate and the fate of our whole tribes. The person who was walking back and forth stood up and looked at Fugon angrily. It was Hadiyar, the leader of the Nightbird tribe. Fear and hesitation will not help you either. Fugon furrowed his eyebrows, then began to look at the rest. Just tell me what you think about what I said. Let us discuss the situation together. You are the one who brought us this hideous news that resembles your face. So tell us your opinion first. The leader of the Plains tribe, Dibas, spoke as he slowly rubbed his eyes, but his voice was clearly panicked as well. It is true that the Human Alliance decided to conclude a peace treaty with the Tree Fathers and coordinate with them to eliminate the invaders, but this is not necessarily a bad thing for us. After a few seconds, Fugon spoke. How could it not be bad? How could it not be bad? They have declared us traitors if we do not join them immediately and attack the Empire. This is a disaster by all standards. Dibas grabbed his head with both hands. If we decide to join the Empire, will we have to fight our brothers, our fellow humans, until one of us perishes? And if we decide to join them, then we will become sworn enemies with the Empire that we four have borders with, and there will be no escape from being annihilated first if a war began. How do we choose in a situation like this? Why the hell did they decide to fight the Empire in the first place? Who was the son of a bitch that convinced them of this? Ugh, if I put my hands on him, I would eat that motherfucker alive. With the help of the Empire, we were able to kill Tree Father Hoffenheim, the one who came up with the idea of humanoid buds, which exhausted the entire Human Alliance for 200,000 years. Even their emperor, Robin, subjugated Tree Father Descartes with no war to speak of. Hadiyar shouted again, if we support the Empire a little more, it won't be long before we overthrow the rest of the 5 Tree Fathers and take back our world. Who cares if they come from another world? Did the Human Alliance love living at the mercy of the Tree Fathers and couldn't do without them? Your view is respected, Hadiyar, but will we really get the world back after the Tree Fathers are dead? We have been waiting for about a month to receive our share of the spoils, but every day they tell us that their Emperor Robin is in seclusion and that we must wait. I am telling you that this is a lie and that they have already distributed everything and they are playing with us. This is our world and we are waiting for them to give us breadcrumbs. Doesn't this infuriate you? Doesn't this give you a glimpse of what will happen to us if the Tree Fathers are eliminated? Against the Tree Fathers, we are indeed in danger of death, but we have managed to hold out for too long and we know of all their games. But against the invaders, we will be turned into slaves forever. Fugon said with sarcasm mixed with anger. Then he continued, secondly, do not overestimate the enemy and underestimate your value. It is true that Hoffenheim was killed, but would this have happened without the help of our 3 tribes? Even on Descartes' warfront, the Grazing Rat tribe was strongly involved and shed blood more than the 5th Legion. Plus, Descartes only surrendered because he was a coward and did not want what happened to Hoffenheim to happen to him. Don't give Emperor Robin too much credit for it. Then he slowly looked at Dibas. Do you think that the Empire defeated Hoffenheim easily? Do not be fooled by the intervention of their emperor named Robin. I admit that he has irrational power, but wars don't depend on a single person. They themselves are not that strong. The Empire lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers during the war, even though they had the help of our 4 tribes. Would they have done any of this without us? I am putting my life on the line to bet that if the Empire used its entire army against Tree Father Descartes or any other Tree Father without our help, they would be defeated badly, or at their very best they would be able to defeat one Tree Father after several decades. What do you think would happen to the invaders if they fought the 5 Tree Fathers at the same time? And above them is the entire Human Alliance. They will be expelled in the blink of an eye. I also don't want to antagonize the Human Alliance for the sake of a bunch of invaders, even if they are victorious against the alliance of the Tree Father and humans. What then? They will either take all the resources of our world and leave us starving, or they will stay here and be the masters and we are the slaves. That's if they leave us alive at all. We have to do something while we still can. Another person spoke. From his clothes, it was clear that he was from the Plains tribe. Idiots! A person wearing Nightbird clan armor slammed the cup he was holding onto the ground. Even if we cooperate with the Tree Fathers and the Human Alliance and casually assume that they have enough power to actually crush the invaders, have you forgotten where we are? We are all on the border of the lands of Descartes and Hoffenheim, the lands of the Empire. If we betray them, be sure that they will at least eliminate us before they leave to return to where they came from. Are you prepared to be a stepping stone for that damn alliance? Silence descended upon everyone again. Of course, they didn't forget that this was the only thing that was keeping most of them from joining the alliance right away. After several minutes, Fugon looked at a corner of the room angrily. In that corner was a fat person sitting comfortably, placing his feet on a small table in front of him and looking at the ceiling as if he did not care about everything that was going on. Charvier, don't you intend to participate in something important like this? Or did the fat on your stomach found its way to your brain? Hee, you say this, but I see myself as the wisest one among you. The leader of the grazing rat tribe laughed. Do as you wish. The grassland rat tribe will swear allegiance to His Majesty the Emperor today, and we will join the Empire, no matter what you say. What? Almost everyone stood up at the same time and shouted. Do you realize who you will antagonize when you make this decision? Don't you see that this is a betrayal? Do you think that the outsiders have a chance against the Tree Fathers pact with the Human Alliance? The outsiders can escape from their own Devil's Gate. But what will happen to the grassland rat tribe? Fugon took a step forward and threatened. Let both sides go to hell. Betrayal to whom? The Tree Fathers have been our enemies since ancient times, and the Human Alliance has not done me any good. This is the first time I have met you guys physically. Am I supposed to consider you my family or something? Charvier laughed and opened his eyes. Then he began to pass it to everyone seriously. It seems that this may be the last time we meet. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't underestimate Emperor Robin Burton and his army. Do you know something we don't know, Charvier? Hadjar asked seriously, a bad feeling starting to rise inside his heart. What I heard and saw inside that tent, that hellish creature. Forget it, I promised not to speak. Charvier raised his shoulder and looked back at the ceiling. If you want to die, go ahead. Don't worry, I won't expose your plan as I haven't sworn allegiance to him yet. Just try not to pressure Emperor Robin too much. Otherwise, the crimson color will surely fill our world. The room that contained more than 10 people fell into silence again. I share Uncle Charvier's opinion. Let's not provoke the Empire again. Fugon sat down again and looked at his daughter in shock. Elise, even you. At this moment, a voice came from outside the building. His Excellency the Emperor of the True Beginning Empire has emerged from his seclusion and requests your immediate presence in the palace hall. The Imperial Palace. When one hears this term, what always comes to mind is that it must be the highest structure around, surrounded by gardens on all sides as far as the eye can see, filled with hundreds or even thousands of servants, and the masses have to kneel when they see it. However, the Imperial Palace on the steep hill does not have any of these features. Rather, it can be said that it was built to be as practical as possible and forgot to show anything that indicates luxury in it. But this is not very strange since everyone here is a soldier and busy with something. The palace building itself was created by divine blacksmiths. In terms of solidity, it was not inferior to the metallic wall that stopped millions of buds before, and in terms of other defenses, it was not inferior to the tent in which he spent 2 years with Zara. Also, the size of the palace under the ground is the same size as the structure above it or even more. In fact, those responsible for building the palace increased the protection by several additional layers by placing rooms for guards at the level of Sage. Underground around the palace. The appearance of the White Palace inlaid with gold may not be the most luxurious, but whatever the rest of the Tree Fathers do, if they think they can play any tricks here, then they are delusional. Atop the steep hill inside the main hall of the Imperial Palace, Fugon and the leaders of the other 3 tribes entered side by side, each followed by a few high-level officials in those tribes. A powerful group of people of high status and high cultivation level, yet after they entered the hall, their glow went out and their aura was overshadowed. The hall had a large table in the middle of the hall with dozens of chairs around it, around which were currently sitting the great generals of the empire, such as Alexander and Elizabeth. Even the violent Victoria, who usually couldn't care less about these meetings, was present. Next to them were the senior officers and advisors like Sage Emily, who currently heads the headquarters, and was also present. It can be said that this hall can declare war on many worlds. Sorry for being late, everyone. Fugon bent down slightly when he saw this scene, and a few drops of sweat trickled down his forehead. After he realized what he had just done, and that he had bowed down in front of mere followers, he quickly looked behind him in order to explain to his companions that his back was in pain or something like that, but he found all the rest bowing like him. So he sighed and led them towards a few vacant chairs. After Fugon and those with him sat down, they closed their mouths and joined the awkward silence that was dominating the hall. But their eyes did not remain silent, but rather were forced to be drawn towards the empty seat at the head of the table, and the people sitting close to that seat. Of course, the empty seat belonged to the emperor, but it was the people around him that attracted attention. Each one of them looked as if he could sit on that main chair comfortably. Jabba, who is recognized by everyone as the second most powerful person in the empire after His Excellency. Caesar, the adopted son of the emperor, who is recognized by everyone as the future supreme general after he surpasses Alexander in terms of individual power, and finally, a weird humanoid figure made of leaves. I see everyone is here. Noise, noise. Suddenly a sound echoed in everyone's ears. A strong and familiar sound. And although they did not see its source, they all pushed their chairs back and stood up at the same moment and spoke in one breath. We salute your excellency. Step, step. Robin finally appeared, walking slowly until he reached his chair and sat comfortably, resting his jaw on his left hand. Then he motioned to the rest. Have a seat. We thank your excellency. Once again everyone pulled their chairs under them and sat down, this time all eyes on Robin. Before anything, I want to know, has there been an attack by a tree father in the past 3 days or any strange movements in any way? Robin asked before anyone could say a word. A person wearing gray armor quickly stood up. No, your excellency. Everything is in order. We have not received any reports from inside or outside our new borders. In the absence of the Shadow Swords, the Wind Users are responsible for collecting and passing on information, and this person was appointed to head the Empire's reconnaissance and surveillance team inside planet Greenland. Strange. Robin raised his eyebrows slightly. He was almost certain that the 3 Tree Fathers would declare war as soon as they left the planet Spirit Domain. This was one of the reasons why he left the domain after only 3 days. Haha. It seems I took their patience very lightly. In the end, they are individuals who are willing to engage in wars and conspiracies for 200,000 years without getting bored. This will be interesting. Your Excellency, do you have any new information? Should we prepare for an attack or something? Alexander interjected. There are already small contingents of the Empire's army distributed throughout their new lands, but they are definitely not ready to respond to a major attack, especially since all the generals and senior officers had been asked to be here days ago. Robin raised his shoulder, laughing. I met the souls of 3 Tree Fathers, and a certain incident occurred between us. I thought they would be so angry that they were going to start a war right away, but after a few days passed, I think the matter calmed down. If they were going to do something about it, they would have done it. Those old trees love plotting and calculating losses and profits before they do anything. As long as they are not blinded by anger and make them declare war immediately, this means that they will begin negotiations with each other and gather armies in an organized manner, etc. Although this will make us face a more powerful and organized attack, it also means that we will most likely enjoy peace for at least several months, or perhaps several years. An incident occurred between you and the souls of 3 Tree Fathers, and they were the ones who started the war. It was not known who uttered these words, but everyone looked at Robin again in a different light. Not one of them thought he was lying, though. Alright, leave that aside for now. We'll talk about continuing the war later. Robin waved to end the topic. Do we have a list of the spoils we got from Hafi yet? Everything is in this report, Your Excellency. Please go ahead. The current head of headquarters, Emily, got up and handed Robin a few papers with both hands, then bowed slightly and returned to her position. Fugon, Hadyar, and the rest from the local tribes began to look at each other with concern. They had no involvement in finding or transporting the spoils and did not know what was theirs and what was due. They all actually thought that everything had already been distributed among the generals or had been transferred to the world from which it came. But did they at least leave behind breadcrumbs to give them away? The moment of truth is near. After a few minutes, Robin nodded with a satisfied smile on his face, then threw the paper in front of him and looked at Emily. Tell everyone about our harvest. There is no need to hide anything. Your Excellency. Emily did not even give the generals and tribal leaders time to rejoice. She bowed again and spoke quickly. So far we have found 5 treasure rooms spread across the body of Treefather Hoffenheim, and the things we know of inside have been listed, and they are as follows. 12 small mountain of high-quality energy stones. Although they do not compare with energy pearls, we can estimate that one of these mountains is enough to return the entire army to planet Jura again. We also found 800 tons of Valamer metal, which is the fundamental metal in golden armor, and 1,500 tons of the rest of the resources used in the golden armor. This amount, in addition to what we have on planet Jura, will be enough to armor at least 5 million soldiers. We also found 50 tons of uracilium metal and, after another 20 minutes of mentioning the discovered minerals, most of which are metals with elemental properties. Now, if Your Excellency permits me, I will begin by mentioning the ancient herbs discovered. Emily interrupted herself respectfully, then continued speaking amidst everyone's stupefaction. Silence. Everyone present found something and then sent a report to the headquarters. Then the headquarters sent people to list the items in the treasure rooms. Technically, only now do they know the amount of what they found collectively. And it was as huge as they expected, and some more. 12 small mountains of energy stones, and only one mountain could return an army estimated at more than 3 million soldiers back to their homeland? Doesn't this mean that these 12 mountains at the very least equal or even exceed the entire wealth of the true beginning empire? And 800 tons of Valhemer metal. This metal may not be as rare as uracilium, but it is also rare in nature and is an excellent foundation for most kinds of runes. The biggest reason behind the slow production on planet Jura is that all continents are constantly searching for mines for this metal. If the blacksmiths of the Flame continent put their hands on this amount of metal, the production of golden armor and weapons would take a completely different curve. This is without mentioning uracilium. They found 50 tons. This is an extremely valuable metal, valuable to the degree that they do not even know what to use it for. And what about the rest of the elemental metals that Emily mentioned? The number of applications they can use it in is unnumbered. Never mind anything else. Just the metals and minerals mentioned make this war extremely worth it. But Emily didn't stop at the metals and minerals, of course, when she continued the report on the ancient herbs found in the treasure rooms, and the silence in the room became even more apparent. The Tree Father himself was approximately 500,000 years old, yet he had several plants there that were much older than that, although the uses of most of them are still unknown, and even for the known herbs, no one would dare use a 1.5-year-old open-ground lily to make a normal wound paste, for example. After about an hour of mentioning the types of plants that had been identified and their characteristics, and after everyone was salivating, Emily began talking about the numbers and types of wooden weapons and shields. This time, however, it did not take much time, and in the end, she concluded, the quality of the wooden weapons and shields that were made from the bark of one of the ancient branches of the Father Tree is not any worse than the quality of golden weapons and armor. Its only problem, according to the experts, is that it can't work with all laws and peer many kinds of runes like the Valhemer metal, but they are still extremely useful and would make an excellent choice if given to the life forces and plant forces. Upon hearing this, Elizabeth and Zara looked at each other with a smile. Obtaining equipment that would increase the effectiveness of their soldiers would be a great gain, but in the end, the decision was up to the Emperor. Emily then continued after raising her glasses. These were all in terms of the spoils found in the treasure rooms, but not everything. Your Excellency, you will in front of you a detailed map of the lands of Treefather Hoffenheim and all the strategic depths therein. as well as the locations of several mines that still contain minerals, which our soldiers found by chance while chasing after the buds. And there is something else that can be considered a separate resource at the top of the tree, which was constantly being struck by lightning. We found several things that were out of the ordinary. A small pool with a green liquid in which the lightning was moving constantly, charred young leaves filled with lightning law energy, and burned young branches that also exude the power of lightning law. Although I cannot fully examine their uses, each one of these spoils can undoubtedly be used to increase the strength of the Army's Lightning Battalion. Tree Father Descartes Avatar let out a long sigh. Even if Hoffenheim was a rival and friend-enemy, hearing his body being dismantled like this gave him a very strange feeling. We have a Lightning Battalion? Robin ignored Descartes' sigh and asked, raising his eyebrows. Emily nodded. In response to Your Excellency, we do have a battalion of lightning users, but they are currently without any sages. This is because Your Excellency distributed the technique for the major heavenly law of lightning only after the unification of planet Jura. But the number of young people who choose this path is not small, and we believe that it will be one of the main branches in your army very soon. Robin whistled softly, then looked at Jabba. Most of those materials Emily mentioned are of unknown use to us. It seems that you have a lot to do in the coming period. Try to quickly gather your team. Jabba quickly stood up and placed his hand on his chest. Of course, I will do my best, Master, and I have already found some candidates for the team. Oh, is there anyone among them that I know? Robin raised his eyebrows slightly, although he did not know what Jabba had been doing over the past month. He was definitely helping the headquarters with the examinations and transportation of the spoils. Where did he get the time to find candidates? That would be me, if Your Excellency don't mind. Robin looked towards the source of the sound and found Old Goo standing and bowing slightly. You want to join Jabba? Do you know what his mission is? Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly. Yes, Your Excellency. Brother Jabba told me that he has left the army and will devote himself to matters of research, discovery, and creation. He will follow in Your Excellency's footsteps, so to speak. Old Goo nodded and sighed. My old bones are no longer able to engage in battles directly, but during my rest period as an advisor to my son previously, I dedicated myself to reading and contemplating, and I have some ideas. I think I will be a good addition to the research team, or at least I will not be a burden on them. As you wish then, your wisdom and patience on the battlefield will be missed, but we will gain it on another front. Robin nodded a few times. The forces of the Flame Continent will be completely transferred to be under Caesar's command, and you can appoint advisors from the Barnett family to accompany Caesar at all times. Do you have a problem? It is an honor that our family members will not fight under Caesar's command, Your Excellency. Old Goo showed an ugly smile and nodded. Although he didn't like his entire army being transferred to Caesar, the only good thing in this arrangement is that Caesar is destined to be the supreme general of the entire army. If his officers and advisors were from the Barnett family, then at least the command would be transferred back to them after Caesar became the supreme general. And if they served him well, they will have a much higher standing in his heart than the other forces, so it's a temporary loss but long-term benefits. Did His Excellency think of all this before he made this decision? Did he know that I can't refuse? That guy. Old Goo thought to himself as he sat down. Well then, let us get back to what you are all here for. You've all heard the spoils, and the moment you love so much has arrived. Robin laughed out loud. Even he didn't expect this kind of return. Everyone settled in their seats, especially Alexander and the rest of the sages coming from the 4 continents of Jura. Finally, their declaration of loyalty to the Empire will begin to bring profits. But Robin raised his hand for a moment and then pointed at Fugon. Before we distribute the Empire's earnings, we have to pay off the foreign debts first, don't you agree, Foggy? All eyes turned to Fugon and the rest of the tribal heads sitting next to him. Some eyes were looking at them with disdain and envy as they saw that those locals should thank heaven that they killed their enemy and should get lost already. And some of the other officers and generals looked at them with pity because they knew what would happen if they accepted their lot today and left, without declaring their full loyalty to the Empire. However, Fugon, Debas, and the rest did not care about these eyes. They did not even notice them. For them, Time has already stopped for a while, specifically when General Gu Barnett said that the Emperor's disciple, Jabba, would follow the footsteps of his master, leave the army, and go to research. These two monsters were devoted to research. Holding breath of course, Your Excellency, as long as you see this appropriate, we are ready to receive our share. Fugon stammered when he finally felt Robin's eyes on his body. Robin nodded with a smile, then pulled a dagger from Caesar's waist that was sitting right next to him and threw it carelessly on the table. Fugon and his team were startled for a moment when they saw the scene, but their hearts quickly calmed down when they saw that the dagger was not coming towards them but starting to move smoothly on the table, scratching it. Not long had passed when everyone knew what was going on. His Excellency was drawing a map of the lands of the Empire, represented by all the lands of Treefather Hoffenheim, and all the lands of Treefather Descartes merged together. The dagger then moved sharply and began to draw the boundaries of the four tribes as they all had borders with the Empire's lands. Just after this meeting began and when Robin saw the map that Emily passed to him, he smiled and put it aside. Then he began to move the dagger and draw another, more detailed, map based on what he saw on the planet Spirit, the green orb, which is without a doubt the most accurate. But the rest of them did not know this. Emily raised her eyebrows slightly and began adjusting her glasses nervously every few seconds when she saw the many differences between her map and the map being drawn in front of them. She was afraid that His Excellency would be angry with her because of her negligence. Meanwhile, all the tribe leaders and members swallowed saliva at the same time when they realized that the borders of the four tribes were drawn with amazing precision. They themselves did not have a map so detailed for their territory. Does this mean that there are elite forces from the Empire's army that entered their lands and drew this map without anyone's knowledge? After the map was finished and took a realistic shape on the table, Robin took out 4 scrolls and started writing things for a few minutes, then clapped and smiled. All right then, let's get started. Wait a moment. Before Robin could say another word, someone quickly stood up and stopped him. Robin raised his head towards the source of the voice. Oh, you are Charvier, right? Do you have a problem? Long Exhale, the leader of the Grazing Rats tribe, pushed back his chair and gestured to 2 people who were sitting next to him. Then, the 3 of them took some steps under the gazes of everyone until they reached a suitable distance from Robin, neither too far nor too close, and then they knelt down with their hands and feet on the ground. The Grazing Rats tribe renounces any rights and rewards. In return, we humbly request the honor of joining the true beginning empire. Brother Charvier, what are you? Although Fugon, Hadyar, and the rest were mentally prepared for this request, the way it was carried out was simply exaggerated. He shouldn't have groveled like this, right? How interesting. Robin leaned back in his chair and looked Charvier up and down. I read the report on the contributions of the Grazing Rats tribe. You did a good job. We were just following Your Excellency's teachings. We don't dare take any praise for ourselves. Charvier shook his head quickly. Robin's light taps on the back of his chair sounded like drums beating in the hearts of Charvier and his 2 followers, and made Fugon and the rest even more nervous. All right then, I don't see why not. Robin smiled and raised his finger, and an oath tablet came out and fell in front of Charvier. Swear here to be completely loyal to me personally, and set death as a penalty in case of violation. You have no problem, right? Of course not. Charvier quickly raised his head, grabbed the oath tablet, and quickly began the process. Finally, he and the 2 behind him breathed a sigh of relief. With a slight movement, Robin pulled the oath tablet towards him and put it back in his space ring. He then pointed at Charvier and the 2 beside him, laughing, You may stand. There is no longer such a thing as the Grazing Rats tribe. You are now part of the true beginning empire. Yes, Your Excellency. Charvier and the other 2 felt a shiver when they heard these words. There is no more Grazing Rats tribe. But they bowed again and returned to their seats quietly anyway. They had sworn allegiance out of fear of the demon army anyway and not out of love for the justice of their new emperor. It was better for the name of the Grazing Rats tribe to disappear than for the entire tribe to be eaten by those hellish monsters. Fugn looked at Hadyar with Debas with the corner of his eyes as if to tell them, Didn't I tell you that wants us to be slaves? But neither he nor anyone else dared to say a word out loud. Well, it looks like we won't need these for now. Robin put one of the 4 scrolls aside and then looked at the rest of the clan leaders. It's your turn. Should I start distributing, or do you have something to say? All the tribe delegates looked at each other, and then Dibas asked nervously, Your Excellency, may I ask what will happen to the Grassland Rat tribe's quota now that they have joined you? Will it be doubled or something? This is none of your business, and they no longer have lands or property of their own to double it for them anyway. Robin laughed and then moved the dagger again, this time blurring the boundaries between the Grazing Rats tribe and Treefather Descartes, merging them. Dibas looked down and grabbed both of his knees as if he was about to crush them. He knew he had to make a fateful decision now. So will they take any additional benefits that we won't take? Will they be considered soldiers who failed to collect points and will have to wait for the next war to get anything? Will they be forced to emigrate from their lands or be treated like second-class citizens? Will they still have their own army? Please answer, Your Excellency. Perhaps the answer will help us make a decision here. Robin shrugged. I have no need for your decision. We had an agreement. Take your share of the contributions and leave if you wish. No one will touch a hair on you, you have my word. Your Excellency, please. This is not a conversation works. Dibas felt extremely frustrated at this point. Robin looked at Dibas with disdain. Don't think I don't understand your little tricks. I just don't see the need to play alone. At the beginning of the war, I did not harm any of you and told you to just accompany my army, kill your enemy, and get a reward for it. I did not force you to join me at that time or threaten you in any way. Now, almost 6 years have passed, and you have fought alongside the Empire's army long enough, you still can't make a decision? If you still want more promises, benefits, and flowery words, then you are simply dreaming. But... Dibas began to mutter, but couldn't find a word to relate. Hadjar and even Fugon next to him started sweating. It's clear that Emperor Robin knows what they're thinking, and it's even more clear that he doesn't give a damn. They understand his words. How is it possible that they have not yet understood the power of the Empire? Their weapons, their talismans, their cultivation techniques, everything is diverse and everything is much stronger than what they know. They know for a fact that the only thing the locals have an age at right now is their numbers and the beasts' battalions. They simply didn't think about the possibility that there were other armies that the Empire could summon, and for a simple reason that they were almost annihilated several times during the 2 years of siege and no reinforcement came to them. And of course, they also had not witnessed the horror of the Draco flock when put to action yet. But on the other side, there are the armies of all the Tree Fathers and the Human Alliance side by side, and this combined army, in their view, is not even slightly weaker than the army of the Empire. Another problem is that Emperor Robin doesn't even try to attract them to his side. What is the solution? What is the solution? As the pressure inside the hall increased, Billy's voice was heard. Robam, Your Excellency, why don't you tell everyone about your future plans for the Grazing Rats tribe? I think the generals here will be grateful to know what will happen to them. Will they join our army first and take the golden weapons and armor to participate in the war and start collecting points? Or maybe you will give them hundreds of our flawless law techniques. Oh, don't you say that they will move on to see our other planets directly and expand their horizons? I support the idea of giving them a break. Why make them battle as soon as they join us? Our armies on the other planets are ready to annihilate the Tree Fathers at any time you want anyway. Fugon, Dibas, Hadjar, and the rest of the human tribe's members stood up slowly. That's right, the invaders came from another world. Even if no additional reinforcements come to them since the beginning of the war, who can guarantee that they haven't already conquered a few other worlds and have troops there? In fact, isn't it illogical at all to assume that they brought their whole army and left their home world defenseless? Even if those troops could not come easily, they would certainly come if the army in the Greenland world was at risk of being exterminated, or if they felt that their emperor was in danger. Secondly, even if Emperor Robin and his army were defeated here, couldn't you simply take the Grazing Rats tribe with them and return to where they came from? The headquarters' current head, Sage Emily, just said that Tree Father Hoffenheim's energy stone storage alone is capable of doing this task easily. This way, The Grazing Rats tribe will be able to escape the living hell of the Tree Fathers even if they lose the war. As for the golden and wooden weapons, the point system, the cultivation and laws techniques, how could it be that they didn't want any of these? It is true that the Grazing Rats tribe was deprived of their name and their lands, but did they not gain everything else in return? Every word General Billy said just now struck a nerve. Or maybe they were looking for a straw to hang on to, and General Billy gave them this straw? They will never know. As for Robin, he looked at Billy angrily for a few moments, then started rubbing his eyes helplessly. How could he not know what Billy wanted with these questions? Hey, everyone should listen up then. This is something I thought about for a long time and I wanted to announce after the war ended. But since my soft-hearted general here wants to give you another chance, there is no harm in announcing it now, even if one of you leaks it. I don't care. Robin leaned back on his chair and began to speak seriously. Planet Greenland is only one of the planets on the path of the true beginning empire. Neither I, nor my sons, nor even my closest generals have time to manage this place. So I will do what every mortal empire in history has done after eliminating the ruling authority in a country. Does anyone know what that is? Elizabeth showed her charming smile and quickly replied, "In response to your excellency." The word empire is used to refer to an entity that rules many countries and kingdoms. Whenever an empire takes control of a new country, the emperor chooses a candidate from that country and hands him the power to administer it in the name of the empire, and the empire would be satisfied with receiving taxes, or perhaps summoning the countries to war if a need arises. The leader of the Grazing Rats tribe, Charvier, and his uncle and brother who came with him, started moving their eyes like crazy between Robin and Elizabeth. Their hearts were not at all stable. Good, this is exactly what any successful empire is, and this is also exactly what you did when you finished subjugating planet Jura. Robin clapped and then pointed at Charvier. Listen, Charvier, right now I can't allocate a plot of land to you because it's simply too small for you to have your own lands yet. And I can't let you keep your stupid name either because there won't be any more tribes in the future. Then he declared, when I'm finished on this planet, there will be only kingdoms. Every tribal leader who swears allegiance to me without war between us will have his own kingdom to run in my name. If 10 tribal leaders swear loyalty, then there will be 10 kingdoms. And if you are the only local who swears loyalty to me before the war begins, then the whole planet will be one kingdom under your care. Then he looked beside him with a meaningful smile. Sorry, Descartes, but you do not count. You are not very good as a ruler. You should understand this. The leaf avatar showed a smile. Indeed, I have no interest in being king. I would rather follow you into the planetary wars as you promised. This. Charvier's heartbeat suddenly became irregular, his pupils moving like crazy. You may be wondering, who will be the subjects of this kingdom? Of course, it will not be just you and your tribe, otherwise it will just be a name change. Your subjects will be everyone who has not sworn allegiance to me before the start of the real war. This includes all the defeated Tree Fathers and all the foolish humans who choose to antagonize me. This is if any of them survive. And also all the new Treant creatures that will appear after the planet is restored to its previous nature and the plants are allowed to gain intelligence again. Are you satisfied, Charvier?
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
I'm completely satisfied. Charvier quickly stood up and bowed 3 times. His uncle and brother fell to their knees again in joy. As for Fugon and the rest, they focused on only one point. The entire planet will be under Charvier's control? Doesn't this mean that the Empire will? Since we have touched on this topic, let me tell you the following as well. I have information that the Tree Fathers have decided to cooperate against us and that they will go to war with us collectively if we try to annex more lands. I also have information that the Human Alliance does not intend well, and I do not imagine that they will fight us and keep fighting the Tree Fathers at the same time. So it's safe to say that we might have to face the entire population of planet Greenland if we tried to advance any further. And frankly, I intend to annex the entire planet. General Alexander, what do you think the implications of this will be? Damn, he knows. Fugon, Debas, and the rest looked at each other out of the corners of their eyes at the same moment. He knew about the alliance against him, and yet he was not trying to attract them to his side, but rather he was literally trying to give them their share and kick them out? Has this guy gone mad? Alexander stood up slowly with a serious look on his face. After a few seconds of thought, he spoke. The problem now is that we are not just an army that can move anywhere we want like he did with Treefather Hoffenheim. We now have territory that we must protect as well. We cannot simply ignore our territory and penetrate deep into the enemy lands, as that will surely put us in danger of encirclement. And we cannot advance to strike certain points and then retreat quickly as well, because this will do us no good because of the large number of our enemies. No matter how many of them we kill, they will return to gather again. And if we allow the enemies to enter our lands as they wish, then everything we have gained will be lost, and we will not be allowed to live in peace, and all wars will be aimless without land of our own. So the first thing we have to think about is protecting our borders first. Then he pointed towards the leaf avatar in front of him on the opposite side of the table. I happened to be talking to Treefather Descartes before the meeting about his abilities and how we can benefit each other. The Treefather has an existing army of leaf soldiers, all of whom can use the laws, and in terms of all-powerful power, I think they are equivalent to 4 of our legions, and have the ability to create more ordinary soldiers with a little effort. They may be a little weaker, but they are excellent in large-scale battles and protecting borders. They can be compared to ordinary buds. Also, there is a special ability that he can activate within his domination circle of control, which is the Cry of Rage, with which he can transform all the plant life in and around the battlefield into soldiers for half an hour before they return to what they were again. This ability is very useful in major battles and can easily determine the winner. Currently, Treefather Descartes is extending his roots inside Treefather Hoffenheim's lands as well, and he will be ready to use this ability in the entire territory of the Empire very soon. So in terms of defense, I see that Treefather Descartes has already given us a superior advantage. Then Alexander continued, if we add to this the imperial forces, which are currently estimated at 2 million, and we distribute them into armies of only 100,000 each, and we build a few fortified castles on the border, and if we add the army of the Grazing Rats tribe, which is estimated at another 3 million, and providing them with equipment and techniques, then Alexander was silent for about a minute, tapping his arm, then continued, we will not be able to invade enemy territory with a large number of forces as we did from Hoffenheim, but I see that we have the full ability to protect our borders, and at the same time we can move forward slowly. Emperor, we can surely fight this war, and we can win it within a century. Caesar nodded. I agree with Brother Alexander on this. No matter the number of enemies, as long as we are in a defensive position and have our own borders and fortresses, the idea of defeat is not on the table, especially if we hand over the Draco flock to the special battalions in the army. But complete victory will be postponed due to our need to defend our lands as we advance. But I think a century would be a very optimistic number if we did not have more reinforcements coming soon. Fugon and the rest of the locals looked at each other again. After hearing the announcement about establishing a kingdom for each tribe that declared its allegiance before a war erupted, their hearts were greatly drawn towards the Empire. But there was still the question of whether or not the Empire would be able to confront the attacks of the Treefathers and Humans Alliance. And now, after hearing General Alexander's and General Caesar's explanation, they all had to admit that this analysis was very logical. A century. Robin laughed as if he heard a funny joke. Let me remind you of something else here. You are measuring this against Hoffenheim, who you fought for 6 years, and I killed him for you in the end. But you should all know that he was fighting you with 20% of his usual soul force. If he still had his full control over 2 million buds as he in his best shape, our losses would have doubled at the very least, right? What if the 5 Treefathers had full power in this equation? And what if I refused to help destroy their souls this time? This Treefather Hoffenheim's control was really painful to deal with, but as Your Excellency said, this would only have caused us more losses and would not have changed the final result. And do not forget that we were within his domination circle and under his complete surveillance all the time, and we could not even fly freely or use our Draco flock, while now we have lands that belong to us. But Your Excellency is right, we have to assume the worst, because when the war begins and if we try to enter the lands of the Tree Fathers, we will have to deal with their special abilities as well within their domination circle. So as we took this into consideration and doubled the danger to the rest of the Tree Fathers 5 times that of Hoffenheim, and we assumed that we had to destroy all their forces and besiege their real bodies only without any intervention on Your Excellency side. Then, Your Excellency, this war will extend for a 3rd or even a 4th century. I fear that this will not be a war, but rather a long-term enmity. We should even think about settling here. Alexander spoke weakly. He knew very well that this was not what His Excellency wanted to hear, but he must tell the truth. Robin shook his head and looked at the rest of the generals and officers. Are you all thinking the same? That the war will take centuries? Should we just forget about the destruction of the Tree Fathers for now and relax in a defensive position forever? Maybe we should also move forward a few meters every year and dig trenches to cut their roots like the locals do. Everyone remained silent. General Alexander's words were indeed accurate and could even be said to be a bit optimistic, but Victoria spoke in her usual sharp voice. Brother Alexander's scale is indeed accurate. But that is if we assume that no development will occur on both sides for hundreds of years. This is just a preliminary estimate that will collapse with any major change in the balance. That's it. Robin snapped his fingers and pointed at Victoria, then returned to look at everyone at the table. I want you to do your best with what is available to you and always put your hope in the development department of the Empire. And until Jabba finishes establishing that department, put your faith in me. From this moment on, the war on Greenland is entirely your mission. I will not intervene personally in anyone's fight. Even if new warlords appear, you will have to take care of them yourself, understand? My mission will be to provide you with more advantages from backlines and watch your progress. I will give you the weapon designs and you create them. I will draw up the rune blueprints and you draw them. I will create new techniques, and you use them. Alexander gave a military salute and quickly replied, Of course, it is understood, Your Excellency. Your Excellency made it clear that we needed to gain experience, and your 2 direct interventions in the war were enough to declare our failure, but then he looked back down. But what? Robin furrowed his eyebrows. I fear that developments will not always be in our favor. Alexander shook his head. There is an urgent report for Your Excellency to decide on. I wanted to save it for last, but the subject is already opened. Do tell what happened. I prefer this conversation to be a little private. Alexander looked at the end of the table. Robin looked at his general for a few seconds, then nodded and looked at Fugon and the rest of the tribesmen. As you heard, there are things that the members of the Empire need to listen to. You need to decide what you want. Before Fugon and the rest could say a word, the dagger jumped and began moving across the table again. Fugon, Debaz, and Hadyar finally opened their eyes at the same time. The dagger had just erased their old borders, but instead of leaving them annexed to the Empire's territory, the dagger created new borders for the 3 tribes, this time nearly tripling the size of their territory. 3 scrolls then flew out of Robin's head and quickly found their way into the hands of the 3 tribe leaders, before Robin said, This is your share of spoils. I will only give you 3 minutes. Reject everything and declare your loyalty to me, or take it, thank me for my fairness, and fuck off already. This tribe leader Debaz began to mutter in a low voice as he began to read his scroll checklist, and the rest of the tribal members quickly followed suit. The amount of energy stones, resources, and even ancient plants that Robin had allocated to him could buy their tribes, including themselves, several times over. Of course, Chief Debaz did not see the full list of the spoils and does not know what percentage of his share of the total that the Empire found. But does this matter? They were all fighting out of fear of Robin, and because they wanted to kill Hoffenheim, they had no hope of taking anything. Who, in a position of power like Emperor Robin, could give up all those precious items? Especially since he came mainly for the sake of conquest and resources. Is he so fair that he won't break his word to his enemies? Or does he simply think he can get everything back after he declares war on them? Either way, this is very scary. Chief Debaz put the scroll on the table again and went back to stuttering. 2 minutes left, Robin said coldly. Robin's words terrified all the tribesmen, and they terrified Billy more than them, who in turn quickly said, "Brother Debas, the rest of the brothers are here. The human alliance will do you no good, and the Tree Fathers want you dead today before tomorrow. Look out for your own interests first. You are not stupid and you know where your interests lie, so take advantage of this opportunity. If you leave the hall today, even I will not be able to help you." Debas mumbled again. Heavy sweat began to fall from his hair like rain, and the veins on his face began to twitch slightly. 1 minute left, Robin declared. As if Robin's voice had pressed a button in his head, Debas could only feel himself moving from his seat and kneeling on the ground. "The Plains tribe salutes your excellency and requests to join the empire." Leader Hadyar felt like he was missing something when he looked sideways and found his companion on the ground. With one step and without knowing it, he found himself kneeling beside him. "The Nightbirds tribe salutes your excellency and requests to join the empire." "Ha ha ha, excellent you guys. Excellent. I knew you would choose wisely." Billy stood up and started clapping warmly. From his point of view, he had just contributed to saving millions of lives. "You all." As for Fogan, he remained standing there, looking at his two old long-distance friends lost, not knowing what to do. His foot wanted to take a step and kneel, and his pride told him to fight for freedom until his last breath. 10, 9, 8, 7, Fugon involuntarily took a few steps back. Robin's indifferent eyes seemed to stare directly into his soul. At that moment, Fugon felt someone pressing his shoulders down until his knees hit the ground, and then he heard him say in a familiar voice, "The Northern Fury tribe salutes your excellency and requests to join the empire. Ellis, even you." Fugon was shocked when he looked next to him and saw the perpetrator. He sighed in peace, remained silent, and kneeled in his place. At least it was not him who knelt and declared loyalty. He could blame his daughter later and say that he went along with the situation for her sake. But he heard something that made his intestines twist again. 3, 2. Emperor Robin did not stop the countdown. Before the count reached 1, Fugon raised his head slightly, then slammed it back into the ground forcefully and shouted at the top of his voice, "This lowly man salutes his excellency and requests to join the empire." Robin stopped counting before he said the number 1, and just showed an annoyed expression. "Haha. Welcome, Brother Fugon. Welcome to the Northern Fury tribe with us." Billy placed his hand over his heart for a moment and then laughed out loud, relief evident in his voice. The rest of the generals and officers were nodding towards the 3 tribal leaders in good faith. None of them was annoyed with them or tried to convince Robin to expel them because they knew the amount of pain and endurance one must have to take. Such a hard decision, almost everyone present had experienced the exact same moment on the Green Hill. As for Elizabeth, she smiled and placed her hand on the table. The wood began to heal again, and the scratches made by the dagger on the borders of the 4 tribes had disappeared. Now all that remained was one piece of land extending east into the lands of Hoffenheim and northwest toward the lands of Descartes, and on the sides were the lands of the 4 tribes fused with them. The borders of the empire on planet Greenland have finally taken form. Sigh, to tell the truth, I would have preferred to accept your surrender after the war began and throw you in my army as foot soldiers rather than accept the declaration of loyalty of a group of fools like you now and include you as officials and high-ranking followers, but for some reason my men here seem to be sympathetic to you and want you with us, so." Robin threw 3 oath tablets towards the tribal leaders without adding much. "You know what to do." The leaders of the 3 tribes, or now I could say the 3 generals, wasted no time either and recited a simple oath of loyalty and the explicit punishment for disobedience, which was death. Then raised the tablets up with both hands while still kneeling. "We, the subjects of the true beginning empire, salute your excellency." Robin nodded, then waved his hand again, and the oath tablets and reward scrolls flew towards him. The oath tablets returned to enter his space ring, and the scrolls burned in mid-air until they turned into ashes and flew away. "Return to your seats. We will resume the meeting." "Yes." The 3 leaders stood and their followers stood behind them and then returned to their seats. Some of them looked sad and others still did not know what they had just done. But there was one thing common on all of their faces. Peace. They have found their inner peace again. Now whether they are defeated or victorious does not matter. They have chosen a side and it is over. As for Robin, he sent a quick reproachful glance at Billy, before turning back to look at Alexander. Everyone here is one of us now. Speak up. Is there a problem in my army? In response to your excellency, it is not so much a problem as it is something we have to deal with sooner or later. Alexander, who was still standing, replied, and then continued immediately after. There is a large segment of soldiers in my legion who want to return to their families. If I may be allowed to intervene, I would like to say that this happened in my legion as well, especially after the siege. There are many young men who want to see their mothers and lovers. We have fathers who want to see their children and wives. Even the orphans literally said that they want to smell the air of the planet Jura and taste the sweetness of sleep on a dark night again. Elizabeth nodded. The same thing happened in my country. My legion too. Mine too. Robin furrowed his eyebrows tightly. He did not think that the Greenland Unification War would be hampered from the beginning like this. It is normal after any war for the army to disband and the soldiers to return to their families laden with spoils to provide them with a better life, or to resume the trade or agriculture that they had, especially since the Greenland War lasted for 6 years, and before that, the soldiers spent about 3 years training on the central continent. Unfortunately, their demands are legitimate. Does anyone have a suggestion? Robin rubbed his forehead and asked. Caesar stood up and looked at the faces of the people sitting around the table. I would like to say a word about this. Most of you must be following the situation on planet Jura. Although the residents of the ancestral continent can be ignored due to their categorical refusal to join the army, the 4 continents still produce law users every day, and the number of people who have expressed their willingness to join the army have reached 4 million so far. I suggest that we gather them and give them intensive training for a period of 6 months and bring them here, and after their arrival, we return the current army to the homeland so that they can rest and pass on their experiences to the new generation. After Caesar finished, Old Man Gu stood up. Brother Caesar's proposal is good, but this is not the best solution. Our current army has terrifying combat experience. Don't you think it would be a shame if they returned to trade and farming? As for the new army, will they be able to withstand the armies of planet Greenland coming at us together? They will collapse in less than 2 years. Secondly, assuming they hold out, won't the new army ask to return home after a few years as well? Personally, I suggest that we divide the army into 3 sections and send each section to the planet Jura for only 3 months and then return to us. Then we send the next part and so on. After Caesar and Old Gu sat down, General Cashelavon, the commander of the 9th Corps, stood up. She was a middle-aged woman dressed modestly with a serious look on her face. In my humble opinion, both Brother Caesar's and Brother Gu's proposals are good as a short-term solution. But let us not forget the expenses of going back and forth between the planets. If we adopt one of the 2 methods, we will spend more on transporting soldiers than we will gain from the war, and this is completely illogical. I have a proposal that will be a little costly in terms of time, but it is permanent. I hope everyone will listen with open minds. Then she looked at Robin as if waiting for his permission before continuing her words. But Robin's eyes were completely out of focus. In fact, it can be said that he had only focused on the second half of Caesar's short speech. The first half was a beautiful piece of news. He knew now that the number of available soldiers jumped from 2 to 4 million. But this is not very surprising. During these 6 years of war, there were children who were 10 years old and are now 16 years old, so even if the old generation are useless, then because of the policy of increasing the birth rate that he followed with his subjects, over time the size of their army will increase at a steady pace. But Caesar's later words also contained something else that completely turned his head upside down. The report he read about planet Jura included only the most important events. For example, it mentioned that the planet currently has 2 million users of the laws, but it did not mention their distribution among the continents. Were the ancestral continents' statistics ignored because of their refusal to conscript? Or perhaps they refused to cooperate with statisticians in the first place. It turns out that the people of the ancestral continent are being completely ignored, And this is because of him and not because of their lack of talent. If we talk in terms of talent, then 4 million law cultivators out of about 200 million people inhabiting the 4 continents is still not the best result. But it is definitely better than 4 million out of 1.5 billion. It's not as if he doesn't know why the people of the ancestor continent refused to join his army. How could he not know the extent to which they hate him? He made them taste hell for years. This is also why he placed a law that prevents any of them from reaching the sagehood realm unless he swears allegiance to him. Ignoring the martial call now. Does this mean that they are weak and do not use the techniques he distributed to them? Or are they using them and there are now tens of millions of knights and saints on the ancestral continent who refuse to submit to his summons? Has the ancestral continent turned into a large village where all its inhabitants want to graze, farm, and trade? Or has it become a sleeping volcano? Ancestor continent. The ticking time bomb. Robin knows for sure that most of its residents hate even mentioning his name. Perhaps some of them respect him. Perhaps others have begun to forget and join the new regime. But the majority of them still harbor hatred for him deep in their hearts. And their refusal to enlist now is the greatest evidence. But what does he have to do? He gave them permission to train up to level 30 without his interference and distributed to them the best cultivation techniques and resources. He also instructed his follower to make their lives easier than it was before his rule and provided them with roads, markets, and amenities so that they would forget with time. But what if this method doesn't work? Doesn't this mean that he is now preparing a hostile army inside his home planet? Even if there is no sage among them, their numbers are still terrifying. What should he do now? Should he withdraw all techniques, prevent cultivation on the ancestral continent, and perhaps kill all the powerful ones again? This will return the situation to 0 again, or even below 0. There will be no going back for him if he implements this policy again. This time he will have to think categorically about feeding the entire 1.5 billion people to the demons. That is, he now has only 2 paths. He keeps the situation as it is and prays that things will go well, or he commits a hideous massacre after which he will never return to what he was before. The 2 options are bitter, and as he thought about what was happening, there was a familiar bad feeling started piercing his heart. Your Excellency, may I present the idea? Your Excellency. A female voice interrupted Robin's train of thought. Robin looked at the woman standing in front of him for a moment, then took out a few items from his ring. Everyone raised their eyebrows in amazement when they saw what was brought out. A pen, ink, a scroll, and the seal. In the middle of the meeting, the emperor decided to write an imperial decree. This time, Robin picked up the pen himself and began to dip it into the ink and write. The details of the message were simply a direct order to the commander of the Shadow Swords to ease the restrictions on joining their ranks, shorten the training period, rapidly increase the size of the forces, and scatter them everywhere he could to compensate for the Shadow Swords who went with Theo to the planet Nahari. He was also telling him to concentrate most of his forces in the ancestral continent and monitoring all movements there intensely. Then Robin rolled up the scroll, sealed it, and passed it to Billy. After the meeting, go to planet Jura and hand this over to the person in charge of the Shadow Swords in Theo's absence, and tell him to prepare reports for me from time to time. Billy received the decree with both hands. Is something wrong? It was clear that Robin was thinking about something serious for a moment. No, just speculation. Robin waved with furrowed eyebrows, then shook his head and turned back to look at the woman standing there, smiling. General Kasha. Right? All right, I'm with you now, you can begin. Yes, Your Excellency. Kasha Levon took a bow and then passed her eyes on everyone else. I will get to the point directly to avoid wasting time. I propose to settle our army here. I was going to say that we create our own tribe, but since Your Excellency said that you do not want a tribal system, why not create a complete kingdom on this land? The energy stones that Brother Caesar and Brother Gu suggested using to replace soldiers or give them vacations from time to time, why not use them to bring the families of the soldiers here and let them settle here forever? The land is good, plentiful, and unowned, and the level of natural energy in the atmosphere is slowly rising until it has surpassed that on planet Jura already and is still shooting up. Why not settle here? Kasia began to look at the faces of those present. Bringing the soldiers' families and giving them their own lands and benefits here will not only make the soldiers feel a sense of belonging to planet Greenland, but it will also eliminate the problem of vacations and will make the soldiers fight to protect their families instead of fighting for gains only. Plus, we will have a new source of soldiers, which are the children of our current soldiers. General Kasia Levin's words made everyone look at each other for a few seconds before they all started speaking at almost the same time. I agree with Madame Kasia. I also think it is the safest solution. This is foolishness. Our soldiers and their families are not livestock to be transported at will and married off to take their children to the army. I don't think they will agree. I agree, but what about soldiers who don't have a family? We can put them on vacation until they get married and bring them back. Not all soldiers will accept this. No problem. Whoever refuses, we will return him to Jura and replace him with new young men, and this time we will bring their entire families. Don't forget that we have a massive reserve army there waiting for an opportunity. If every soldier had a family of only 3 members on planet Jura, this means that we would need to deport at least 9 million people. Can you imagine the amount of energy stones we would spend on this matter? I do not support this. The expenses will be very high. Secondly, what will happen after all these civilians come to a burning war zone like this? Will we let the soldiers stay with their families and plow the land and build cities? Or will we abandon them as soon as they come and take them to stand at the borders? Think about something else. The discussion remained open for more than half an hour, with each person saying a word, some attendees offering questions, and others offering solutions, but not a single decision or agreement on the horizon. But aren't all meetings like this? Humans can never agree on one thing, and this is also why there is no ruling system on any planet headed by a council of equal characters. There is always one person who takes the decision when everyone disagrees. So the purpose of these meetings is to present options for that one person in power to choose what he sees fit. But not everyone was interested in engaging in this hassle. Some of them were focused on the facial expressions of the person in power. The distracted emperor. Dad, are you okay? We can continue the meeting tomorrow. Zara, who was sitting next to Caesar, reached out to pat her foster father's hand. It's nothing, it's fine, I'm listening. Robin smiled in return and patted Zara's hand with his other hand, then returned to focus this time on the discussion going on around him. Soon after he understood what they were discussing, he raised his hand slightly until everyone was silent, and then he finally opened his mouth. I promised someone that I would make the planet Greenland one of the permanent headquarters of the true beginning empire and that I would station an army here, so General Kasia's proposal is acceptable to me. Then he continued before anyone could answer him. Since we are talking about this matter now, let me tell you something that will be a permanent policy for the empire, which is that we are not here to destroy and withdraw, but to survive, exploit, and develop. This will be the last time we send millions of soldiers to another planet like this. As you can see for yourselves, any of the solutions you have presented now would eliminate at least half of our supply of energy stones instantly. So what is the point of all we do then? We are not here to play. I understand that we are all inexperienced in this matter, and it is our first experience, but you should know that this type of spending will not be repeated. Then he turned his face towards Kasia. Since you were the one who proposed the solution, I will put you in charge of implementing it. You can use as many power stones as you want to gather the families of the soldiers and finish the transfer as quickly as possible. But inform all the soldiers that this is the last time they will use the Empire's resources without compensation. Later on, they can use the space portal, but they must obtain the necessary energy stones themselves, whether through mining or by exchanging their points for energy stones. You should find solutions with the rest of the generals later regarding this matter. Yes. The joy was clearly visible on General Kasia's face, partly because her proposal had been accepted, but mainly because she finally had the opportunity to appear on the big scene. Then he looked at Elizabeth. I will leave the distribution of lands to the soldiers who want to buy them in your hands. Choose a few good spots in the middle of Hoffenheim's domination circle and start there. Do not let the lands be too close or too far apart. Distribute them wisely with the intention of building an eternal colony for us here, and perhaps building a complete monarchy later on. And since you will build an entire colony from scratch, you will also need to organize a police force and all the facilities that support urban communities. You can also ask for the help of whatever generals and officers you want here to help you organize the soldiers and build the colonies. Elizabeth stood up and gave a slight bow, then opened her mouth and everyone heard the musical voice. Everything will be done according to your excellencies. A big smile appeared on her face as she sat down. His Excellency now orders that she be transferred from a mere general to a purely administrative role and give her real power in the empire for the very first time. Then he looked at Victoria and then Caesar. Both of you separate the soldiers who do not have a family and do not want to return to planet Jura and form 2 legions, each of you at the head of a legion, then station them in the east and west. I will also leave it to you to choose your assistants from among the generals and officers here. You will be the only striking force of the empire in the coming period.